Chapter 831. Su Fang's strongest defense continued to shatter layer by layer. The sword intent continued to kill. What flesh armor! Even the indestructible golden body could not resist the terrifying shackles of this Tao technique's sword intent domain. Look, please move. Limitless domain, limitless domain. Rumor has it that the domain is above the divine avatar realm. I did not expect an immortal to have such terrifying control in the Milky Way. He activated the indestructible golden body with all his might and pushed the defense of his Tao treasure to the extreme. His life treasure's defense could not withstand the immortal's attack. He wasted his true qi again and again. It was like a flood that could not be controlled. The limitless Tao technique is broad and profound. Kid, your cultivation is still too early. Do you think that you can truly understand this technique just because you cultivate the limitless Tao technique? Su Fang's suppression was almost certain. Immortal Xian Dao Tian displayed an aura and strength that surpassed the immortal avatar realm. He gradually came in front of Su Fang. His eyes could see through the Milky Way. My sect's limitless Tao technique is a supreme immortal level ability. My first sect leader accidentally found it in a dangerous place in the immortal primordial domain. Generations of Doichi immortals who ascended to the great world have been searching for the true origin of the limitless Tao technique in the great world. Who knows, it might be a technique from a great world sect. This technique is not something a mortal world ant like you can control. Illusion and reality evolution. Su Fang had to use all his power to block this attack. He secretly endured the pain. While he activated the indestructible golden body, he activated the ethereal 10,000 laws Tao and used his world ability to remove a portion of the limitless sword intense power. Still struggling. Xian Dao Tian was less than 10 meters away from Su Fang. He said in shock, if it were any other realm lord, they would also die under the limitless domain. So no matter how much you struggle, your fate is to die here. Is this my limit? Is this the limit of a mortal world cultivator's strength? Su Fang glanced at the smug and murderous Dao Tian in his heart. He felt as if he was standing face to face with the strongest person in control of a small world. He could clearly see the gap between them. No matter how weak he was still a realm lord, and his strength had reached 3 calamities. Those who could surpass him in strength were probably Realm Lord Zhuotian, the 6 Lords of Fertility, the Lord of 5 Poisons, the Green Feather King, the Undying Tortoise, and Bai Ling. Su Fang was confident that there was only a small gap between him and these experts. But at this moment, the difference between him and the Tao Heart Heavens was like heaven and earth. No, I am only at level 7 of the Feather Transformation realm. Not to mention the Flying Celestial realm, even if I reach level 8, level 9, and level 10 of the Flying Celestial realm, my strength will surpass anyone. Once I reach the Flying Celestial realm, I will be the strongest mortal world cultivator in this small world. Su Fang watched as the sword intent once again shattered the Tao artifact defense and the indestructible golden body. His physical body was almost torn into pieces, but his eyes were unusually bright. But today I am not at the Flying Celestial realm, and I do not have the strength to surpass the peak. However, it will not be easy for the Tao Heart Heavens to kill me because I am not alone. Su Fang, you killed my younger brother, made an enemy of the Doichi, cultivated the limitless Tao art, and dared to make an enemy of the Xinyuan Empire. Today I will not kill you. I will suppress you. The Tao Heart Heavens gradually walked from 10 meters away to Su Fang, who had been suppressed by the sword intent. It's coming! Screech unexpectedly. The moment the Tao Heart Heavens swore to suppress Su Fang, a shocking Milky Way palm print formed by tortoise patterns suddenly pounced from behind him. Boom! The speed and attack of this sudden tortoise-patterned palm print had reached the peak of the small world. The attack caught the Tao Heart Heavens off guard. The Tao Heart Heavens' reaction was too shocking. He grinned disdainfully, turned around, and used an immortal light defense to block the tortoise-patterned palm print. It did not shatter the immortal light defense. The tortoise-patterned palm print seemed to be shackled, but a saber aura that contained immortal light suddenly attacked from the inside. The Tao artifact's Tao light was cleverly hidden by the tortoise-patterned palm print. The saber aura quickly and violently struck the Tao Heart Heavens defense. With a crack, the immortal light defense was actually destroyed by the saber aura. Whoosh! Before the Tao Heart Heavens could react, another immortal light saber aura struck him. Bang! This time, the Tao Heart Heavens was very surprised. He did not expect a second saber aura to attack him. He subconsciously used his left arm to block in front of him. He actually used his left arm to block the Tao artifact's saber aura, and his skin was only slightly scratched. Tisk Su Fang, who was being suppressed by the Tao artifact, suddenly shot out a surge of Tao artifact's might. Finally, when the Tao Heart Heavens was entangled by the attacks, he jumped up and struggled free. The Tao Heart Heavens glanced at Su Fang. He did not seem to care. Instead, he looked at where the two saber auras came from. Where did this expert come from? A young man in a red robe appeared. It was the undying tortoise with two sabers. The undying tortoise opened its mouth, revealing its white and neat teeth. I am the undying heavenly lord. Your opponent today should be me. Undying heavenly lord! The Tao Heart Heavens shook his left arm, and all the saber auras disappeared. It seems like there is no expert like you in the immortal primordial domain. You are quite strong, but you have not gone through your tribulation. You cannot be my opponent. You should be a demon. You do not need to worry about my background. You should think about your ending today. Don't think that just because an immortal is here, you can be so arrogant in front of me. Watch out for my saber. The undying tortoise charged over. The Tao Heart Heavens took out a long whip. It was formed by countless immortal marks. In the Tao Heart Heaven's hand, it released a shocking amount of immortal light. He looked at the Tao artifact in the undying tortoise's hand. This saber seems to be the Jingbei Emperor's Tao artifact. Haha, you just realized. So you are the ones who killed the Jingbei Emperor. Since you are so strong, I will not be courteous to you. The Tao Heart Heavens threw out his whip, and a black hole appeared in the galaxy. Slap, slap, slap. In the blink of an eye, the long whip formed by immortal light was connected to the black hole. It lashed at the undying tortoise's twin sabers. The Tao artifact gave off an even more dazzling light, and an even more deafening explosion. The undying tortoise's twin sabers were suppressed by the immortal light whip. However, he quickly regained his strength. After all, he was wielding a Tao artifact. Moreover, he had mastered many mystical abilities. His speed was also at its peak. The twin sabers struck the long whip repeatedly, causing the immortal light whip to retreat. Old brother, you don't need me to do anything. At this moment, a pair of eyes were staring at Su Fang from behind. There was another pair of eyes in the depths of the galaxy. Su Fang replied calmly, "This Tao Heart Heavens is very different from the Jingbei Emperor's strength. This person is really a genius. Moreover, we sneak-attacked Tao Heart Heavens and the Immortal Expanse Realm Lord, unlike the Jingbei Emperor. He did not suffer any injuries. Sister Bai, wait first. You are our trump card." Bai Ling continued to hide in the depths. Illusory fire cloud. Su Fang did not hold back. This time, he wanted to join forces with the undying tortoise to deal with Tao Heart Heavens. He wanted to fight against the immortal. It was not realistic to do so through the previous exchange. What he wanted to do was not to kill Tao Heart Heavens, but to tie him down. He wanted to gain an advantage for the undying tortoise, and let the undying tortoise kill him. Large amounts of flaming clouds descended around Tao Heart Heavens. Domain defense. The immortal reacted instantly. He was surrounded by burning immortal aura. The illusory fire cloud was extraordinary, but Su Fang was not an immortal. He could not use even 1/10,000th of its power. He really helped the undying tortoise. Tao Heart Heavens started to be wary and guarded against Su Fang. The power and mystiques released were not as terrifying as before. After a while, Su Fang did not want to drag this out. "I will not let you have an easy time." He took out an immortal rune talisman. Immortal talisman. This was obtained from the storage rings of the two immortals. There were a few immortal talismans, and some of them contained offensive power. No matter how terrifying the offensive power was, it was crucial to deal with Tao Heart Heavens. The only thing that could truly tie down Tao Heart Heavens now was the power from the Great Worlds. After fusing with the rune talisman and mastering the immortal runes and hand seals, the illusory fire cloud continued to descend. It surrounded the rune talisman and immortal runes and attacked rapidly. Zap, zap, a large amount of demonic poison was released by the undying tortoise. The demonic poison was powerful. When it came into contact with the immortal light released by Tao Heart Heavens, it was not scattered by the immortal light. Instead, it continued to surge toward Tao Heart Heavens. Tao Heart Heavens also realized how extraordinary the undying tortoise was. Not only could it fight him face to face, its true chi was also abundant. And now it could release such demonic poison. Any mystique that came from Tao Heart Heavens was blocked by the undying tortoise's dual saber Tao artifact. This was the true power of the undying tortoise. It was at the same level as the immortals. Boom, the two boulder experts were locked in a fierce battle. Su Fang, who had become a spectator, could not do anything. But when a huge explosion of immortal light hit the inner defenses of Tao Heart Heavens, it exploded with a terrifying force. It blasted Tao Heart Heavens and sent him flying. Ha ha! The undying tortoise suddenly chased after him and used its elbow. The injured Tao Heart Heavens lost his balance and was hit in the tailbone by the undying tortoise. It was so painful that Tao Heart Heavens was enraged. He released his defenses and spat out a snake-shaped flying sword that emitted starlight in front of him. Clang! Tao Heart Heavens! The undying tortoise took the opportunity to attack again. Its dual sabers were powerful. In terms of divine power, Wooling Goblin and the Sky-reaching Monster Lord were not even 1/10 as strong as the undying tortoise. But the flying sword from Tao Heart Heavens blocked the two immortal sabers and overturned the undying tortoise. Here's another immortal pattern. None of this could escape Su Fang's eyes. He gritted his teeth and remembered the scene when he fought with the third prince of the Xinyuan Empire. Santai Zi used a talisman to injure him and destroy the edgeless sword. At that time, he thought that the immortal talisman was extremely powerful and invincible. But now, the immortal talisman that he used did not feel as powerful as before. It only injured Tao Heart Heavens a little. And so, he took out another immortal pattern. Its attack was still powerful. After fusing with it, he saw that Tao Heart Heavens was twice as powerful as before. Tao Heart Heavens activated his immortal sword. You actually forced me to use my immortal sword. This is not the great world. Once I use my immortal sword, all of you will die. It's hard to say who will die. Su Fang shouted in the sky. You die first. Suddenly, whoosh. What Su Fang did not expect was that Tao Heart Heavens actually moved in the sky and reached the speed of shuttling. In the next moment, Tao Heart Heavens appeared 100 meters in front of Su Fang and stabbed out with his sword. Su Fang saw that the starry sky was filled with sword lights that were like snakes. Tao Heart Heavens returned to his original spot and looked at the undying tortoise again. Clang! 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 In the blink of an eye, the sky was filled with sword lights. It was like a snake nest that had awakened and suppressed the undying tortoise. If not for the undying tortoise's dual saber Tao artifact, he would not be able to withstand this attack. But Su Fang was in trouble. The world in front of him was filled with sword lights. Was this the power of an immortal? He immediately activated the small universe immortal pot. His last move was to force the undying tortoise into a Tao artifact. Chapter 832. The mini-universe immortal pot disappeared along with Su Fang and suddenly floated in the Star River. At this moment, countless snake-shaped sword lights in the Star River pounced around the mini-universe immortal pot, engulfing this Tao artifact. Fortunately, I have a Tao artifact for defense. Within the Tao artifact, Su Fang let out a sigh of relief. He felt the immortal pot constantly shaking, but fortunately, Yuan Ling told him not to worry, thinking that heaven didn't have the strength to break a Tao artifact. However, the mini-universe immortal pot was not an offensive Dharma treasure. According to Yuan Ling, the mini-universe immortal pot could only be used for defense, but heaven might have sealed the mini-universe immortal pot. Sealing the immortal pot? If that was the case, then Su Fang would also be sealed in the Tao artifact, and he would be in trouble. Whoosh! About 10 breaths later, he left an afterimage and returned to the Star River in the blink of an eye. There were still remnants of sword intent around him, and he looked at the mini-universe immortal pot again. There was indeed no sword mark. Now he was relieved. A Tao artifact was not only used for offense and defense. He put away the immortal pot and looked ahead again. The central Star River swept up a tearing black hole from time to time. At the center, the Tao artifact's dazzling light was exploding, and destructive shockwaves were constantly sweeping out. Any three-step calamity-level powerhouse that approached would be seriously injured. Experts below the two-step calamity level couldn't deal with this level of impact at all. It was like two immortals were fighting each other. Under the power of perfection, heaven didn't have an absolute advantage. The undying tortoise used the dual-saber Tao artifact and poison. Although it wasn't an immortal and couldn't perfectly use the Tao artifact, its own divine power made up for this. This fellow was also very old. Knowing that it couldn't use the Tao artifact's power, it combined its own advantage with the Tao artifact. This way, it could contend with the powerful heaven. Its advantage: innate divine power. The power produced by the combination of the Tao artifact and divine power was naturally unimaginable. Back then, when the undying tortoise descended from the sky and attacked a sect, it could crush a large number of people in an instant, and it wasn't even a real attack. Now that it had turned into a human form and met an immortal, its true strength was stimulated by the Tao artifact. Its combat strength now looked like that of a rooster. As I expected, the undying tortoise's strength. No cultivator of a realm lord, or leader of a realm is his opponent. The shockwave caused the defense to be continuously stripped away. It was too terrifying. No one would believe that the undying tortoise and Xian Dao Tian could fight to such an extent. Go! After communicating with the undying tortoise, a large amount of illusory fire cloud descended. This time, Su Fang merged the illusory fire cloud with the netherworld aura. The evil energy from the demonic Tao should be able to affect the heart Tao heaven to a certain extent. Needless to say, it was really an accident this time. Artifact Tao Daoist demonic Tao Fangs with Tao Dao Dao's Dao Dao, Daoist Dao S Dao's was Dao Dao. Dao 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 Dao's Dao Dao to Dao S Dao to Dao to. Even though he thought that Tian was an immortal, his aura was obviously affected when he encountered the chi of the underworld. Clown. Xiao Chen thought to himself, a beam of light containing a supreme will swept over from the depths of the astral river. This ray of light contained the supreme will of an immortal. It was enough to kill any giant with 3 catastrophes. However, the Yuan Shen was also one of Su Fang's great divine arts, but it was better to be cautious. He still executed the true devil blood plate and released wave after wave of Yuan Shen's godly aura to clash with the eye light. He then tossed the immortal talisman towards the Heart Tao heavens along with the illusory fire cloud. Unexpectedly, under the influence of the chi of the underworld, Heaven's ability to control the Milky Way was much weaker than before. Then, the rune talisman struck his defense again. A violent explosion blasted Xian Daotian into a bloody mess and sent him flying. The undying tortoise chased after Xian Daotian and waved its twin blades, not giving him a chance to catch his breath. Slash after slash, Xian Daotian felt like he was mincing meat. He thought to himself that Tian was definitely heavily injured this time, and he was also poisoned by the undying tortoise's special demonic poison. This made Su Fang realize that Tian didn't seem to be strong when it came to poisons. Su Fang immediately absorbed a large amount of special poison from the blood ghost True Devil's body and swept it towards Xian Daotian along with the illusory fire cloud and the chi of the underworld. Starry Daylight Sword, Heart Tao Heavens. I, Su Fang, may be an ant in front of you now, but I still have the determination to kill you. He controlled the Starry Daylight Sword and used the power of the world to display his greatest ability in the Milky Way. He had also activated the Dharma powers of the more than 20,000 big goblin Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda in his body to strengthen his body with true chi. Boom! Another violent Tao artifact shot out. Heart Tao Heavens was forced out from one end. How could he have known that a white aurora shadow would suddenly appear behind him like the sun, and as soon as it appeared, it would stab him in the neck? A shocking wound appeared, but it didn't cut off his neck. Poison! Heart Tao Heavens controlled his flying sword to deal with the undying tortoise in front of him. He then touched his neck and saw black blood on his hand. He looked back and saw Su Fang holding the Starry Daylight Sword with an embarrassed smile. He was so angry that he shouted, "Kid, I will cut you into pieces!" Zap, zap! The chi of the underworld and the illusory fire cloud that descended from above contained even more special poison from the blood ghost True Devil. Su Fang didn't care what kind of immortal he was. He then used his Wuji doppelgangers to attack Xian Daotian. He was only at level 7 of the Feather Transformation Realm, but he took the initiative to attack the immortal. On the other side, the undying tortoise unleashed 2 blades of energy. They were domineering and sharp. Clang, clang, clang. Heart Tao Heaven's flying sword wasn't simple either. He slashed horizontally, and a ring of sword chi spread out in all directions. With the Starry Daylight Sword in his hand, Su Fang activated the power of this magic artifact that had reached the peak of the small world. It was also a surging sword chi. The Starry Daylight Sword only left a mark on Heart Tao Heaven's neck. Even something like the Starry Daylight Sword can't kill an immortal from a small world. The sword chi came out and clashed with the doctrine artifact. Many of Wuji's doppelgangers were shattered. Whoosh! Little did they know. As the sword chi from both sides clashed, Heart Tao Heaven's flying sword came from the sky with Su Fang as its target. Buzzing, luckily, Su Fang had the ability to complete his physical body. He activated the small universal flask in time and disappeared. Clang! The small universal flask reappeared where Su Fang disappeared. It was accurately hit by the flying sword. With a loud noise, the 2 doctrine artifacts were both knocked away. Boom! They didn't know if it was a meteor or something else. At the moment when Heart Tao Heavens threw out the flying sword, the undying tortoise seized the opportunity. It transformed into its true form and smashed down from the sky. So, it's a monster tortoise. I know a giant monster tortoise like you. You are the heavenly horn giant tortoise from the immortal curve world. Suddenly, Heart Tao Heaven's celestial light was shattered by a shockwave. He looked up and saw the huge tortoise shell. He exclaimed and then condensed a beam of celestial light. You are from the mortal world. You are no match for me. Watch me break your tortoise shell into pieces. Swish! He jumped up and slapped the beam of celestial light. Boom! The attack hit the undying tortoise's shell. Heart Tao Heavens thought that immortals would be superior to any living being in a small world. This time, he was very wrong. When the beam of celestial light hit the undying tortoise's shell, there was only a violent explosion. Heart Tao Heaven's face twisted in fear. But it was too late. The immortal's body suddenly looked very small when compared to the undying tortoise. Heart Tao Heavens was hit by the undying tortoise's shell. He lost his balance and his center of gravity and fell down. Buzzing on the other side, the mini-universe celestial pot suddenly disappeared. Su Fong appeared from the Tao artifact dimension. He was feeling dizzy and his ears were ringing. When he saw that Heart Tao Heavens was heavily injured, he saw hope. He stepped on the starry daylight sword and increased his speed to the maximum. He quickly went to kill Heart Tao Heavens. The undying tortoise suddenly turned into a bubble in midair. It then turned into a human form and held 2 swords in its hands. Together with Su Fong, it pounced at Heart Tao Heavens. Sword Starfield. People say that a starving camel is bigger than a horse. If he did not say it, it was Heart Tao Heavens. He suddenly steadied his body. A beam of sword chi pierced through the air. He raised his hands, and the immortal sword in his hands suddenly shot out a sword shadow. 3 puppets come out. Next, he unleashed another beam of celestial light. It was 3 immortal-level puppets that floated in front of him. Each of the 3 puppets had an immortal sword. While the quality was average in a small world, there was no difference in quality between Tao artifacts. Even an average Tao artifact would have the power to destroy the world. Be careful. Su Fong saw this scene with his perfected ability and immediately told the undying tortoise. The 2 of them stopped in time outside the Starry River domain controlled by the sword chi. In an instant, the Starry River in front of them was pierced by the sword chi, and countless black holes appeared. What a terrifying power! If the 2 of them were in the middle of it, Su Fong would definitely be killed, and the undying tortoise would also be seriously injured. This move was the strongest move Heart Tao Heavens could use. Whoosh, whoosh. Although they were not injured by the sword domain, the 3 puppets still pounced. Heart Tao Heavens was a bloody mess, but he was still holding an immortal sword. Immortals are immortals. Su Fong suddenly felt the true terror of immortals. Back in the Beichen zone, killing that immortal and Jingbei King could not be considered fighting immortals. One of them was seriously injured, and the other was ambushed by several Tao artifacts. They were already half dead. Heart Tao Heavens was fighting Su Fong and the undying tortoise in his normal state. Both sides were at the same level. This was the first time in Su Fong's life that he understood how terrifying immortals were. The undying tortoise's eyes narrowed. It did not have such an expression before. Kid, this is troublesome. Heart Tao Heavens is seriously injured, and this is the best chance for us to kill him. But now that he has released 3 immortal puppets, it means we have to fight 4 immortals. 3 puppets and 3 Tao artifacts. Seeing the puppets getting closer and closer, Su Fong suddenly recovered from his shock. This is the best chance to kill Heart Tao Heavens. If we can't kill him now, the 3 immortals will gather. They will have an understanding of our strength and method. At that time, they will bring out even more methods from the great world, and we will have no chance of winning. Then you want to fight it out with him? Fight it out. All right, then let's kill. Wait. Su Fong grabbed the undying tortoise. You and I will hold back the 3 puppets. First, we will give Heart Tao Heavens a boost. Let him feel that we are not his match, and then let Bai Ling ambush him. In truth, the best way to deal with the 3 puppets is to kill the master controlling them. Without Heart Tao Heavens controlling the puppets, there is nothing to fear. Kid, you're quite crafty. Hee, you're quite smart. The undying tortoise immediately smiled. This is not crafty. This is a method. Facing such a powerful enemy, we are forced to the point where we have no choice. At this time, it will be either you die or I die. They're here. The two experts sensed the cold aura of life coming from the puppets. Chapter 833. The three puppet immortals flew over mechanically. They were unable to dodge the meteorite particles and the power of the storm. Their physical bodies made loud banging sound. Please move. Since they were puppets, they did not feel pain. One on one side. Su Fong cast a sharp light at the undying tortoise. The flaming cloud wings appeared on his back. He used the flaming cloud steps to complement his speed. At this moment, his movement technique had reached the level of shuttling. This was the Milky Way. Heart Dao Tian swallowed an immortal pill. The immortal patterns on his body burned. Demon, I thought I was the best in this Milky Way back then. I ascended a few thousand years ago. This person must be eliminated. Otherwise, I, Doichi, will disappear from this immortal primordial realm soon. Clang. The undying tortoise threw out the immortal sabers in its hand. One saber hit the front of a puppet, while the other spun and almost killed one of the puppets. Although the puppets did not have consciousness, they had the ability to move under Heart Dao Tian's control. The two puppets were entangled by the undying tortoise. The poison released by the undying tortoise could not stop the puppets from attacking. Su Fong was on the other side. The flaming cloud wings were faster than the puppets in front of him. He used the Starry Daylight sword and left many sword marks on the puppets. However, he did not dare to kill too fiercely. If the puppets used their Dao treasures, it could cause great damage to the Starry Daylight sword. It seemed like it was not easy for one human and one demon to deal with the puppet. Limitless Domain, Sword Doppelganger. Heart Dao Tian seemed to have recovered a little. At least he had swallowed an immortal pill to stabilize his injuries. He used the immortal sword in his hand again. A surge of limitless Dao technique's power activated the immortal patterns on his body. The immortal light started to flow into the immortal sword and merged with the sword chi. Whoosh! In an instant, one after another, limitless Dao Tian's doppelganger appeared around him. There were hundreds of them. Moreover, compared to Doichi's limitless Dao technique, these doppelganger had the ability to move physically. Their strength had surpassed 3 calamities and reached the level of an immortal. Great Mystican Immortal had used the Dao technique from the Great World to create hundreds of doppelganger. Each doppelganger had the strength of an immortal. Su Fong felt the limitless Dao technique burning in front of him. Seeing those powerful clones of Limitless, Su Fong was greatly astonished. I didn't expect that killing Xian Dao Tian would be so difficult. With the power of a great perfection paragon, it was only natural that he could see how frightening the clones were. Sister Bai, once he releases his clone, immediately launch a sneak attack on him. In order to attract his attention, I will do my best to release the pressure on him. On one hand, Su Fong was dealing with the puppet, trying to get rid of it. On the other hand, he was communicating with Crane Fairy Bai Ling, trying to launch the final attack on Xian Dao Tian. The starlight sword in Su Fong's hand suddenly disappeared. He pushed his world power to the limit, and in addition to the ethereal quintessence, he suddenly left the puppets and charged towards the Heart Dao Heaven. You still dare to come and seek death. Limitless clone, I will let you see how powerful the real limitless clone is. Go. In his heart, he thought that Su Fong had appeared and was about to attack. He immediately formed a seal. The limitless clones around him seemed to have come alive. They let out dazzling light, and their immortal patterns burst out. Under the roar of the immortal light, each of the puppet clones formed a seal and flew out. The moment they flew out, each of the clones unleashed a shocking sword intent. Such sword intent was more powerful than any Dharma treasure in the mortal world. The more than 100 clones were like more than 100 immortals. The sword intent that each of them controlled could make the Gales in the galaxy suffer. So powerful. I am not afraid. The undying tortoise had also injured 2 of the puppets, but it could not kill the puppets in a short time. Seeing so many clones coming, it was also holding back its anger. Swish, swish, Su Fang was also facing a large number of clones that were moving faster and faster. But before that, Su Fang used his most powerful ability to activate the Starlight Sword and quietly attack Xian Daotian. Xian Daotian was controlling the sword and the hundreds of limitless clones. He might not have the same sensitivity as before. When the sword chi of Aurora Sword Chi came from behind, he could not react. Immediately, the Starlight Sword stabbed into his back. Luckily, he had the immortal patterns to protect him. The Starlight Sword was a peerless Dharma treasure in a small world. That being said, it was still a peerless Dharma artifact. Even so, part of it still pierced into Xian Daotian's back. Clang! Xian Daotian was enraged. He shook his body and forced the Starlight Sword out of his body. He trembled and spat out blood. Poison again! To his surprise, he felt a burning pain on his back. It was the same pain that he felt when he was wounded on his neck. The wound on his neck had started to rot. At the same time, the wound on his back was being poisoned as well. The Starlight Sword was poisoned again. It was the special power of the Blood Ghost True Demon. I can't hurt you even if I try my best with the Starlight Sword. But I can make your wounds worse. Plus, the poison is slowly corroding your body. Your wounds will get worse. By then, you will be dead. Su Fang could only put away the Starlight Sword when he saw this. Then, he quickly ran away from the limitless clones. As for the puppet, it was not as fast as him, so he did not have to worry about it. At the moment, he and the undying tortoise were about to be surrounded by the limitless clones. An immortal was superior to Su Fang and the undying tortoise. Whoosh whoosh, Xian Daotian was still in control of the sword. At this moment, he was not worried about Su Fang's sneak attack. To be honest, he did not expect that a flying sword in a small world could have such special abilities. Behind him was the immortal primordial realm, an empty galaxy. As for the 6 big goblin, they were in another galaxy, besieging the master of the immortal primordial realm and dozens of other powerful warriors. Right at this moment, a Xian Guang came from behind Xian Daotian. Behind it was Bai Ling, Fairy He in her true form. She was trying to sneak up on Xian Daotian as fast as she could. There is someone else. Xian Daotian was still in control of the sword. He turned around and was surprised to see a gray Xian Guang coming at him. Xian Daotian did not take it seriously. He breathed out a ray of light that was strong enough to shatter the Xian Guang and blasted at the gray Xian Guang. Rumble as he expected, no matter how powerful the mortal realm was, it was not a match for an immortal. The immortal light was smashed into pieces by the chaotic profound light with an unstoppable force. Just as he was about to attack Bai Ling, a gust of wind came from the quickly disappearing Xian Guang. This gust of wind was like a sharp sword. When it came out, it reached Xian Daotian in the blink of an eye. Xian Daotian was slightly surprised, but he was still shocked. Instantly, a ray of light condensed in front of him. Defend! A layer of immortal light defense was formed instantly. Boom! Xian Daotian thought that any attack would not be a threat to his defense. However, he did not expect a circle to shatter his defense and reach him. This is a Dao artifact. With a whoosh, he held the immortal sword in front of him. His eyes widened again at this moment. He watched as a chaotic circle hit the celestial sword just as it was about to attack. Poof! He did not expect his body to tremble and spit out a mouthful of blood. Crack, crack, the attack continued to come. Before Xian Daotian could react, the immortal sword in his hand started to shatter. At this moment, his eyes were fixed on the mysterious circle, and his body actually burned into an afterimage. Boom! The immortal sword was shattered by the circle. At the same time, the circle continued to attack Xian Daotian. Xian Daotian, who was in the form of an afterimage, was hit by the circle in the blink of an eye. He should have been killed by the celestial next spirit circle. When he attacked Jingbei Emperor, the immortal died under the attack of the celestial next spirit circle. However, at this moment, when Xian Daotian's afterimage was hit by the circle, it suddenly exploded. Then, another afterimage separated from Xian Daotian. He wanted to escape from the celestial next spirit circle, but it was not difficult for the circle to kill one afterimage of Xian Daotian. It continued to attack the second afterimage of Xian Daotian. In this way, the second afterimage was also shattered. However, unexpectedly, the third afterimage also started to separate when the second afterimage was shattered. More than 10 afterimages appeared in succession. Under the attack of the celestial next spirit circle, they were all shattered and turned into a bloody mist. Boom! After the celestial next spirit circle killed more than 10 afterimages of Xian Daotian, its speed slowed down. After the last afterimage was sent flying, the circle flew towards Bai Ling. He's actually not dead. Bai Ling grabbed the circle and transformed into his human form. He did not dare to chase, but he also stared at Xian Daotian's every move. Su Fang, who was almost surrounded in front, was shocked when he heard this. However, he realized something. He's not dead? However, the puppet's movements have slowed down. The attacks of the hundreds of Wuji clones are also weakening. The undying turtle also rose high into the sky from the other side. Return. Xian Daotian, who was sent flying, lost a Dao artifact and was also heavily injured by the celestial next spirit circle. Suddenly, he floated up. He was very slow. However, more than 100 Wuji clones and 3 puppets all flew towards him. Unexpectedly, when he absorbed the Wuji clones into his body, his aura became stronger little by little. Then, he let the 3 puppets open a path above him, breaking through the power of the stars. He actually flew towards the endless sky of the Milky Way. He's trying to escape. We can't let him escape. The undying turtle shouted loudly. Bai Ling and Su Fang both exploded their speed to the extreme at this moment. Whoosh! The undying turtle's speed was still more powerful. It was 1 step faster and threw out 2 immortal Dao swords. Then, he suddenly transformed into his original body in the Milky Way. The huge undying turtle's demon body trembled. Its head suddenly straightened, facing the Milky Way high above Xian Daotian, and suddenly opened its mouth to suck. Boom! The 2 immortal Dao swords also hit the 2 puppets below Xian Daotian. In order to stop the immortal Dao swords, Xian Daotian did not hesitate to abandon the puppets and use the puppets to block the immortal Dao swords. Whoosh! Whoosh! After 3 breaths, the undying turtle's body shook out a terrifying gust of wind. He opened his mouth and spat out an indescribable Xian Guang storm. It was 100 times faster than Xian Daotian's current speed. Whoosh! Whoosh! When Xian Daotian reacted, the Xian Guang storm was like a black cloud, enveloping him. Then, he found that he could not move. No, he was moving. Instead, he was controlled by an invisible force, controlling the black cloud, and was falling from the sky. Looking down, Xian Daotian's eyes suddenly narrowed. He saw that the undying turtle's control force was opening its mouth to shackle him back from the Milky Way. I didn't expect that Xian Daotian would also fail miserably. At the beginning, I should have killed them with my strongest power. Xian Daotian looked at the distant depths of the Milky Way with pity, as if he saw the gorgeous big world. He bit his finger and drew a blood mark between his eyebrows. Dao Daotian has perished and turned into dust. Be careful. Although Su Fang could not stop Xian Daotian, his great perfection ability was better than anyone here. At a glance, he saw that all the power of Xian Daotian was turning into a burning state. Self-destruct. He felt that he turned around and shouted. He nervously flew down to the bottom of the Milky Way with Bai Ling. Boom! Xian Daotian exploded in an instant, turning into a dazzling Milky Way like a divine sun. Chapter 834. Self-detonation. An immortal had self-detonated in a small world. The self-detonation force from Xian Daotian swallowed the galaxy he was in, and it also spread in all directions. The black suction cloud that the undying tortoise had spat out earlier also collapsed under the self-detonation. An immortal's power is indeed beyond a small world. Su Fang and Bai Ling saw that the situation was not good and had already used their fastest speed to dodge. Only the undying tortoise was left. With its big goblin body, it was impossible for it to dodge the self-detonation force in an instant. Unexpectedly, with a flip, its head and limbs retracted into the tortoise shell, and after flipping over, it used the tortoise shell to block the exploding immortal light. Boom! At this moment, the galaxy was blasted by the self-detonation force from Xian Daotian, creating an unimaginable shock wave. The shock wave looked like it was born from the natural movement of the galaxy, but there was a large amount of immortal light inside. The undying tortoise had just flipped over when the immortal light shock wave hit its tortoise shell with the force of a surging river, instantly shaking it away. In the next second, the big goblin's body was swallowed by the immortal light shock wave. In the distant galaxy, Su Fang and Bai Ling teleported and arrived at the periphery of the self-detonation just in time. Bai Ling's eyes shone with spiritual light as he stared at the galaxy that was swallowed by the shock wave. "Is that damn pervert all right?" Su Fang shook his head and recovered from his shock. "I saw it with my perfected ability just now." He used his tortoise shell to block the self-detonation force. His tortoise shell is as hard as a Dao artifact, so he should be fine. I didn't expect an immortal self-detonation to have such power. After all, it is an existence that has gone from a small world to a large world to cultivate. The material and power of the large world must be countless times more than that of the small world. Furthermore, Xian Daotian is also a peerless figure, so his self-detonation force is far more powerful than that of an ordinary immortal. The undying tortoise is too powerful. Previously, Xian Daotian wanted to escape. You and I didn't have the confidence to catch him. Who would have thought that the undying tortoise would be able to suck Xian Daotian in and force him to self-destruct? This is the first time I've seen such an ability. It should be the innate ability of the undying tortoise. If you and the undying tortoise can kill Xian Daotian, then we can kill that immortal from the Xinyuan Empire called Jing Suifeng and another mysterious existence. Let's go take a look. 10 breaths later. The power of self-destruction gradually lost its destructive momentum under the pressure of the vast galaxy. The shockwave was also disappearing. Su Fang and Bai Ling flew over again. They were very worried about the undying tortoise. The immortal tortoise was still using its shell to block the shockwave, and it lazily stretched out its head to look around. Once it saw Su Fang and Bai Ling, it immediately turned into its human form. "You guys run really fast. Anyway, your shell can't be broken. If you don't stay, who will?" Bai Ling was very eloquent and didn't give the undying tortoise any face. The three of them flew towards the immortal radiance galaxy that had mostly disappeared. They didn't see Xian Daotian's corpse, but there were many unbounded Dao techniques lingering in this galaxy. Nothing is left behind. When the light completely disappeared and the galaxy regained its calm, Su Fang used his perfected vision and looked around. He shrugged in disappointment. The undying tortoise said coldly, "This person probably didn't want to leave his things to us before he self-destructed. We should help the others and kill the other experts from the immortal primordial domain." Since Xian Daotian was dead, they still had to kill many more experts. The three of them flew towards the other side of the galaxy. After more than 10 breaths, they saw various Dao artifacts Xian Guang surrounding and killing more than 10 experts from the immortal primordial domain. It seemed like the 6 big goblin had killed more than half of the experts from the immortal primordial domain. Su Fang asked Bai Ling to help. Then, he and the undying tortoise flew towards the other side where there was a shocking explosion. It turned out that the heavenly piercing demon Venerable and the Vermilion Emperor were attacking the immortal primordial domain lord. Su Fang and the undying tortoise flew over and relaxed. They saw that the immortal primordial domain lord was surrounded by two big goblins. They were using their Tao artifacts to attack him. The immortal primordial domain lord was severely injured, but the two big goblins weren't injured at all. If the immortal primordial domain lord didn't use a Tao artifact, he would have been torn apart by the two big goblins. Su Fang condensed his primordial spirit as he roared, "Realm Lord of the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord, you should know that just a moment ago, immortal Xen Dao Tian was killed by us. You are also heavily injured. Could it be that you still have the strength to fight against the four of us?" The immortal primordial domain lord stumbled. Xen Dao Tian is dead. It seemed like he didn't know. Being surrounded by the Vermilion Emperor and the heavenly reaching demon Venerable with their Tao artifacts, the immortal primordial domain lord didn't care about the lives of others. Su Fang shouted, "You can totally sense Xen Dao Tian's aura. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you choose to continue being our enemy and not submit to me, the undying heavenly Venerable, the two big goblin, and I will definitely kill you in less than 10 breaths of time." The Vermilion Emperor and the heavenly reaching demon Venerable kept their Tao artifacts. However, they still released their demonic poison and demonic qi. The shackles on the immortal primordial domain lord didn't disappear. 1 breath, 2 breaths. In less than 3 breaths, the immortal primordial domain lord seemed to have aged. "I didn't expect that Xen Dao Tian would die in your hands." Not only Xen Dao Tian, but Jingbei Emperor as well. You should know who he is, right? 4 immortals descended to the mortal Emperor world to deal with the 5 poison divine sect. However, I can tell you that the one who seized the mortal Emperor world wasn't the 5 poison divine sect. It was me, Su Fang. All this while, the Xinyuan Empire has been searching for me. Su Fang released his Tao artifacts, divine aura and a shocking pressure. He looked down and said, 3 breaths of time have passed. I don't want to waste my breath. Everyone has their own choice. Xen Dao Tian is indeed an immortal. He didn't choose to be suppressed and chose to self-destruct. You, the immortal primordial domain lord, are the current immortal primordial domain lord. I, Su Fang, am not your opponent. You are also a big shot worthy of respect. Although submitting to me will cause you to lose your dignity, only by living can you achieve your goal of becoming an immortal. Your life and death will depend on you. The undying tortoise smiled. Killing an immortal might take some effort, but I don't believe that killing a realm lord will take so much effort as well. Master, let's do it. Since this person is heavily injured, we can use his corpse to cultivate. Ha! The piercing sky demon Venerable also emitted a piercing demonic light. I, the immortal primordial domain lord, didn't expect this. The immortal primordial domain lord suddenly kept his Tao artifact and looked at the 4 experts. He helplessly lowered his head to Su Fang. I choose to submit. Then fuse with my shackles. Screech. Su Fang's face didn't change at all. If the immortal primordial domain lord submitted, it would be easier for him to obtain the immortal primordial domain. However, if the immortal primordial domain lord didn't submit, the 4 of them could kill him in less than half an incense's time. Moreover, killing the immortal primordial domain lord was much easier than killing Xen Dao Tian. Therefore, he already expected the immortal primordial domain lord to submit to him. Under the gaze of the 3 big goblin, Su Fang's shackles surged into the immortal primordial domain lord's head. The immortal primordial domain lord's defenses disappeared, and he was forced to accept Su Fang's shackles. At this moment, the Vermilion Emperor and the piercing sky demon Venerable finally absorbed their Tao artifacts into their bodies. Their demonic aura also gradually disappeared. Su Fang retracted his remaining light. Alright, order those experts to stop resisting. Settle. The immortal primordial domain lord was indeed an overlord. He decisively followed Su Fang's order and sent out a thought. Not long after, under the suppression of Bai Ling, the 9-headed demon king, the 9-segment earth dragon, and the other big goblin, more than 10 experts with 3 calamity stage heavenly Dao flew over obediently. Su Fang also took down these experts, and the starry sky finally quieted down. Bai Ling smiled and asked, "Brother, according to your character, you should have immediately used the immortal primordial domain lord to sneak into the Xinyuan Empire and work with them from the inside." "I can't do that. First, the Jingbei Emperor died. Now I'm thinking about the heavens. The Xinyuan Empire is not stupid. They will definitely guard against experts from the immortal primordial domain. However, Sister Bai, you reminded me." Soon after, Su Fang summoned the immortal primordial domain lord in front of him. "Immediately send an order to the tens of thousands of origin experts who just left the immortal primordial domain. Ask them to return immediately." The immortal primordial domain lord was in a difficult position. It's just that Doichi Wuji and the Xinyuan Empire are in charge now. Once they return, the immortal primordial domain will also send people over quickly. Bai Ling was very unhappy. "Listen to my brother. What are you worried about? No matter how many people from the Xinyuan Empire come, we can just kill them. After all, we have already obtained the Wu Tan domain and the Beichen zone. There are countless experts who can deal with the Xinyuan Empire. In addition, there are only 2 immortals left. With so many of us working together, we can fight against the Xinyuan Empire head-on. Do as you say." Su Fang nodded affirmatively. The immortal primordial domain lord could only send orders to the experts who had just left. "Let's go back and deal with Doichi. Wuji, Zhu Daozi, and the other experts are still unaware of the situation here. They will probably receive news of the death of the heavens very quickly. I'm just worried that they will ask Doichi to start preparing." Su Fang gave another order, and the group immediately flew towards the immortal primordial domain. Half an incense's time later, the group arrived above the immortal primordial domain. The immortal primordial domain lord immediately sent out orders. Many experts appeared in the world's barrier to welcome him and the group into the immortal primordial domain. They still did not know what had happened to these origin experts. The moment they entered the immortal primordial domain, Su Fang ordered the immortal primordial domain lord, immediately activate the Great Array and completely seal the world's barrier. You will stay here and wait for those experts to return. If there are any experts from the Xinyuan Empire or Doichi, they can come in if they want to. Once they are here, use the world's barrier to trap them. We will take down Doichi in the shortest time possible. 1 hour. 1 hour. The immortal primordial domain lord shuddered when he heard that. Whoosh. Su Fang led the big goblin and flew towards the depths of the immortal primordial domain. The immortal primordial domain lord led more than 10 experts, but he was still in disbelief. Helplessly, the immortal primordial domain lord could only bite the bullet and follow Su Fang's orders. A few breaths later, the number 1 power in the immortal primordial domain, above the Doichi Dao Hall. This was a righteous Dao power that was much stronger than the Green Lotus Sword sect. It was rumored that it had been established for hundreds of thousands of years. Su Fang ordered the 6 big goblins, the Vermilion Emperor, the 9-section Earth Dragon, the heaven-reaching Demon Venerable, the 9-headed Demon King, the Wuling Goblin, and the Brute Force Demon King. Today, I will give you special permission to eat and kill as you wish. Destroy Doichi for me. If they are not convinced, beat them until they are convinced. Many thanks, Master. The 6 big goblins immediately released their Dao treasures. Su Fang nodded slightly. Also, Doichi has been here for so long. Watch out for the appearance of Dao treasures and the combined power of array formations. There might also be powers from the Tao halls left behind by immortals. However, they will not be a match for all of you. Kill! Boom! 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 6 waves of attacks suddenly appeared above the Doichi Dao Hall along with the 6 big goblins. Destructive and evil Dao treasures were unleashed, as well as demonic auras. Doichi did not react at all. He was not prepared. The huge Dao Hall's barrier was attacked by all sorts of Dao treasures. Chapter 835. The Dao One sect was engulfed by the attacks of the 6 Dao weapons. Sister Bai, you stay here and watch. Doichi might have some kind of power from a great world that was set up by an immortal. Taking down Doichi was just like taking down the Green Lotus Sword sect. As Su Fang grew stronger and conquered more and more small worlds, Su Fang also lost any thoughts of challenging a major power. Bai Ling smiled. I will definitely complete the mission. With me, the Chaos Fairy, around, everything will be fine. Su Fang was also relieved to let Fairy He and Bai Ling stay here. He then flew towards the sky with the undying turtle. Soon, they met the immortal primordial domain lord under the world barrier. Su Fang ordered, "This is the undying heavenly lord. He is the one who killed Xin Daotian. Bring me to the depths of the immortal primordial domain. Leave this place to him." Yes. When the immortal primordial domain lord heard that it was the undying turtle who killed Xin Daotian, he wondered how he felt. Before leaving, the immortal primordial domain lord also ordered all the Origin Realm experts to listen to the undying turtle's orders. Then, he brought Su Fang to the depths of the world. Soon, the two entered the depths of the earth. As they traveled through the rock layer, Su Fang asked, "How long has it been since you inherited the immortal primordial domain?" "More than 200,000 years," the immortal primordial domain lord answered honestly. "Do you know anything about the core of the earth? That is where the origin power of the world is concentrated. It is impossible to enter the core of the earth. None of the past immortal primordial domain lords were able to enter the depths of the earth. In other words, no one knows if there are any world fragments in the earth's core." What is a world fragment? The immortal primordial domain lord was confused. After Su Fang heard this, he felt that the world fragment was a supreme treasure. The immortal primordial domain probably did not have any world fragment. When they reached the depths of the earth's core, the two started to find it difficult to move. When they got close to the core, it was almost impossible to enter the depths of the earth's core. This was Su Fang's destination. "Although you have submitted to me, you will still be the immortal primordial domain lord in the future. I also want to fuse with the immortal primordial domain's world power. Now that I have control over the Beichen zone, the Wu-Tan domain, and the immortal primordial domain, my next target will be the primordial god domain. Once I control the 4 small worlds, I'll gather them in the same galaxy and establish a force in the same galaxy. When that day arrives, you, the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord, will also obtain many benefit. What I want is a stretch of astral river while you are still the overlord of this world. However, I can tell you that it's extremely difficult for minor worlds to fuse together. For example, how many years would it take for the core of an earth to fuse with your heart's blood? I need to ascend to a great world as soon as possible. A senior told me that when cultivators go to a great world, they should focus on cultivation there. Furthermore, only immortals, or even more powerful entities, can truly wield world power in the boundless starry sky. Alright. Now, use your autonomous realm power to gather the origin power and essence of the surrounding autonomous realms. I'm going to start fusing with the immortal primordial world. Okay, let's do it. These words still left the immortal Grand Mist Realmlord confused. He immediately followed the order and gathered large amounts of immortal primordial world's essence. It was majestic. Even 10,000 cultivators wouldn't be able to absorb all the energy from the Earth's core. This was the vastness of the world. Su Fang released 11 Yang meridians and used the 9 Yang 9 transformations to absorb the immortal primordial world's essence. He also dripped a lot of fresh blood and fused it with the Earth's core. However, this fusion was only superficial. Even if it took 1,000,000 years, it wouldn't be able to truly fuse with the Earth's core. The immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord obediently formed hand seals at the side and gathered a shocking amount of energy for Su Fang. To be able to survive the combined attacks of the Vermilion Emperor and the heavenly piercing demon Venerable with their Tao treasures meant that the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord was an existence that stood at the peak of the countless Realm Lords. If it was an ordinary Realm Lord, he would have long been killed by the 2 big goblin. Initially, they thought that they would have to kill the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord. Who would have thought that they would be able to suppress him alive? During this period, Su Fang also secretly contacted the Green Feather Monarch, Li Ziqing, and the Lord of 5 Poisons. They knew that they had successfully ambushed the Xinyuan Empire's army and killed tens of thousands of experts in the material galaxy where the mortal Emperor world used to be. The 3 giants also received news that Su Fang had killed Xian Daotian and taken control of the immortal primordial world. This was even more exciting. They couldn't believe that Su Fang's mission was so smooth. Su Fang asked the 3 giants to hide first and move the mortal Emperor world to a deeper part of the nebula to avoid the Xinyuan Empire's revenge. However, the sect leader sent a new message saying that the Xinyuan Empire suddenly stopped searching for the mortal Emperor world in the Nebula Galaxy. They had retreated and gathered in the galaxy where the mortal Emperor world used to be. It seems like the primordial God world has already taken control of Xian Daotian's death. They have lost their advantage and have to stabilize themselves step by step. The tables had turned. Previously, Su Fang was at a disadvantage. However, now that he had obtained the immortal primordial world and killed Xian Daotian, he was gradually reaching the height of the Xinyuan Empire. With this, the mortal Emperor world was no longer at a disadvantage. The immortal primordial world lord immediately sent a message saying that a large number of immortal primordial world experts had returned to the immortal primordial world. There were indeed experts from Doichi and the Xinyuan Empire who had returned. This was especially so for Doichi's Master Limitless. He probably knew that Doichi's Tao field was under attack. He was anxious to see the immortal primordial world lord and entered the world. However, he didn't know that what awaited him wasn't the immortal primordial world lord, but the sealed immortal primordial world and the incomparably powerful Undying Tortoise. The Undying Tortoise also sent a message saying that Doichi's Master Limitless had brought countless experts over. They were furious and wanted to attack the immortal primordial world. If the world's barrier wasn't opened, they would force their way into the world. Su Fang asked the Undying Tortoise to wait. If Master Limitless wanted to make a move, he would let him be. After all, the world's barrier was sealed. Only a few giants could enter. Most cultivators couldn't go above the barrier. Even if Master Limitless brought Doichi's experts into the world, he wouldn't be able to save Doichi. Moreover, he would be blocked by the Undying Tortoise. Unknowingly, this stalemate lasted for several years. In the end, just as Su Fang expected, Master Limitless brought a large number of experts and was forced to leave. It turned out that the 6 big goblin had already broken through Doichi's defenses. They had killed more than 100,000 disciples and suppressed hundreds of thousands of Doichi disciples of different cultivation levels. They had also obtained all the resources of Doichi's Tao field, suppressing hundreds of thousands of disciples. This time, Su Fang had profited greatly. He would let the big goblin control these people first. When he merged with the immortal primordial world to a certain extent, he would definitely restrain these people and make them his subordinate. The immortal primordial world lord probably knew about this as well. He was even more dejected and helpless as he watched Su Fang fuse with the immortal primordial world. He even realized that Su Fang's speed of merging with the immortal primordial world had surpassed his. It was truly unbelievable. During this period of time, he had been merging with the immortal primordial world without restraint. The injuries from the battle with Xian Daotian had been recovering continuously. His cultivation level was also constantly reaching the peak of Immortal Transformation Stage 7. It wouldn't be long before he broke through to Immortal Transformation Stage 8. For this, Su Fang increased his speed once again. In order to make the Immortal Primordial World Lord work for him, he also took out the Immortal's essence. The Immortal Primordial World Lord was naturally overjoyed to receive the Immortal's power. This was a treasure that he couldn't refine. Only immortals of the greater worlds could do something like this. No cultivator or expert in the mortal world could shake the Immortal's power. Another 2 years passed. Su Fang and the Immortal Primordial World Lord left the Earth's core and came to the surface. He ordered, "Doichi has been destroyed. Next, you will bring a large number of experts to pacify the various forces in the Immortal Primordial World. Focus on the forces related to the Doichi and the Xinyuan Empire. I believe there are many such forces in the Immortal Primordial World. I can already vaguely sense that there are many auras related to the Doichi and the Xinyuan Empire in the Immortal Primordial World." The Immortal Primordial World Lord bowed. The Immortal Primordial World and the Primordial God World formed an alliance 1,000,000 years ago. There are indeed many forces related to each other in the two lesser worlds. If these forces resist, how should we deal with them? You will go with the big goblin. If any forces are stubborn, just suppress them. Try not to kill them. Just suppress them all. After all, I already have 4 lesser worlds and need a large number of slaves. I won't reject anyone. There are about a dozen such forces. So what? So what if there are a dozen forces and millions of cultivators? I can't tolerate sand in my eyes. Those who work for me will receive resources that only immortals have. If they are my enemies, why should I be courteous to them? I need to focus on dealing with the Xinyuan Empire. Your subordinate will do it now. The Immortal Primordial World Lord received the order and left. At the same time, Su Fang also asked the heavenly piercing demon Venerable and the 9-headed demon king to follow him. He wasn't worried that the Immortal Primordial World Lord wasn't strong enough. He wanted to show the Immortal Primordial World Lord his determination to become the overlord of this star river. Su Fang appeared in the sky above the Doichi's dojo again. Bai Ling and the Wuling Goblin rushed over. Below them were the hundreds of thousands of Doichi disciples who had been shackled. The Undying Turtle also rushed over. Su Fang first used the power of his realm to absorb the essence of the limitless Tao that Doichi had accumulated over countless years into his body. Then, he created a brand new barrier that quickly replaced the old Doichi. From now on, this is the Heaven Crossing sect. It is no longer the Doichi. Chi. Unexpectedly, a shocking aura shot out from his body at this moment. He hurriedly took a look and couldn't stop smiling. It was the 12th Yang Meridian. He had successfully formed it at this moment. This was great and just in time. He was about to break through Immortal Transformation Stage 7 and step into Immortal Transformation Stage 8. The Undying Turtle arrived in the sky. After setting up the formation, he started to check the space of the Yang Meridian. It turned out that he had absorbed the Immortal Primordial World's essence and origin power without restraint. This caused the 11 Yang Meridians to be filled with the power of his realm. In addition to the pure Yang energy and the mysterious origin power that he had absorbed from the golden lotus stone flower, the power of his realm in the 11 Yang Meridians had increased by several times. He estimated. This was the reason why the 12th Yang Meridian was formed so quickly. Could it be that the fusion of the world fragment, the Yang Meridian, and the pure Yang energy will help the 9 Yang 9 transformations and speed up the formation of the Yang Meridian? Amidst his surprise, he gradually calmed down. He wanted to find the reason why the 12th yang meridian was formed. However, it was too late. A vast heavenly tribulation surged from the sky. The first stage of the heavenly tribulation was about to descend. Su Fang still gave half of the energy to the undying turtle. He shattered a portion of the remaining energy, and let the rest strike his palm and enter his body through his right arm. Finally, he attacked the golden lotus stone flower. He still wanted to use the heavenly tribulation to attack the golden lotus stone flower. This was because this was the only way he could fuse with the golden lotus stone flower and grasp the secrets of the golden lotus stone flower. It was a pity that he was not an immortal. It was a pity that he didn't know anything about the golden lotus stone flower. The clumsy bird flies first. Since he was lacking, he had to think of ways to make up for it. The heavenly tribulation attacking the golden lotus stone flower was the only way he could think of. It was also the only way he could control it. He and the undying turtle maintained this state until the 8th stage of the heavenly tribulation entered their bodies at the same time. The heavenly tribulation's aura gradually weakened. The blood-colored heavenly tribulation's power was fierce and domineering. The last time, it attacked the mysterious golden lotus stone flower from his left hand. In the next second, Su Fang welcomed the familiar power of advancement. It swept through his body, making him feel as light as a feather. Chapter 836. The moment he stepped into Immortal Realm Level 8, his entire body underwent a qualitative change. Look, please move. Furthermore, he would also have a 12th yang meridian. His overall cultivation speed would rise to another level, and his physical body would become even stronger. While his body was still evolving, Su Fang immediately checked to see if there were any changes to the world fragment. Changes, it was still ice-cold, as if it wasn't an existence of this world, impossible to merge with. Fortunately, the world origin force that leaked out was slightly more than before, and the shape of the world origin force looked like lotus leaves. In short, there were still some changes. At the very least, with a bit more world origin power, Su Fang's cultivation would improve. He then examined the changes in his body. The blood threads of the black lotus true body were thicker. Most of them could circulate true qi and blood. If this continued, they would replace the meridians sooner or later. Unfortunately, it was still unable to fuse with the purple qi law spirit in his right arm. The dragon taming wood left arm looked perfect, and when he activated the wood elemental spiritualization, his left arm could instantly turn into wood. With his current wood elemental ability, he was invincible in this small world. His divine aperture had become sturdier, and his young infant had become much stronger. Inside his golden core of origin, the demonic path power that he had obtained from cultivating the heavenly demon scripture, as well as a portion of the monster clan's power. Although the powers were complex, the golden origin core contained an astonishing amount of 9 yang qi, so the various powers did not reject each other and could fuse together within the golden origin core. This was one of Su Fang's great abilities. In this vast world, he was definitely the first person to be able to combine the powers of the Yao race, the demon race, the human race, and the spirit race. After mastering the transformation of his fleshly body, he began to cultivate the Tao of the myriad arts, the illusory fire cloud, the 9 transformations of the 9 suns, the Heaven Devil Codex, the Saint Emperor God Origin Scripture, the limitless Taoist magic, the Hellblood Wolf Smoke, and the 5 poisons true energy. Of course, the most important ones were the ethereal 10,000 laws Tao, the illusory fire cloud, the 9 suns 9 transformations, and the heavenly demon scripture. There was also the mysterious woman's heavenly secret life shrinking technique. In terms of supernatural powers, Su Fang cared most about the 2 supernatural powers he had created, the Yin-Yang Rakshasa sword and the Dragon Snake scroll. As for the magic treasures, there were also some changes. For example, Su Fang had obtained a large amount of origin source stones, soul essences, and other resources. After understanding the overall situation, he began to think of ways to strengthen himself. He refined all sorts of world gemstones, even resources from great worlds, immortal blood essence, and immortal fruit. For example, immortal pills, immortal fruits, and immortal blood essences were the three resources that Su Fang was constantly fusing with. The method of assimilation was the same as before. He would make a large number of cuts on his body and use his perfect black lotus body to assimilate and devour them. The effects were even more shocking than cultivating. Su Fang's cultivation was based on two aspects. One was internal cultivation, focusing on the 9 transformations of the 9 suns. Using pure yang power to drive his body, he could absorb power and cultivate various energy arts. External cultivation was to cut open a bloody wound on one's body, allowing the perfected physical body to directly devour the various great world's resources. Combining the internal and external was the method Su Fang used to cultivate from the beginning. Combining it like this, it was like Su Fang had a clone. He could cultivate the internal and external at ease. The undying tortoise was also sitting cross-legged in the distance, cultivating. Su Fang naturally gave it many resources, most of which were the essence of the great world. In the primordial god realm, which was relatively far away from the immortal primordial realm, the Xinyuan Empire had many imperial cities, but in the depths of the earth, there was an endless palace. At this moment, there was also a golden palace floating in the depths of a secret realm. Outside the palace, greetings, heretic crown prince. There were over 1,000 people gathered here. Each of them was a peerless powerhouse with 3 calamity realms. A portion of them were civil and military officials of the empire, similar to Qin Yuanhou in the past. Suddenly, a few maids and eunuchs came into the crowd. Many experts bowed to a young man who had lost his left arm and was wearing a golden robe and a feathered crown. Heretic Crown Prince. What heretic crown prince? He was clearly the honorable Tao disciple of the immortal sealing sect, Prince Shui. He was received politely by many people, but most people, especially the imperial princes, treated him coldly and even snorted disdainfully. Xueleng and the crown prince of Great Qing were also by Prince Shui's side. Xueleng secretly glared and said unconvinced, "These people are courting death. They think the patriarch is sincerely working for the Xinyuan Empire. Suppress your anger. Don't be anxious." Prince Shui, who was already the heretic crown prince, looked around indifferently with a smile. He came to one side and waited with the people beside him. When the 4 great emperors appeared, other than some important people, everyone else left. People like Xueleng and the crown prince of Great Qing could only leave. Other than the 4 great princes, the current emperor of the Xinyuan Empire also came to the highest point of the hall. Below him sat the 4 great princes. As for the crown prince, princes, marquis, and other important people of the Xinyuan Empire, they could only stand in the hall. Everyone bowed to the Xinyuan Emperor, Emperor Wujiang. After the emperor waved his hand, he muttered, "Today, everyone gathered here probably knows that the Doichi Immortal Venerable, Xian Dao Tian, has been killed. The immortal primordial realm has also started to seal the world barrier. Even the Doichi's Master Limitless and a large number of experts under him are unable to return to the Doichi realm. According to them, the Doichi realm has been destroyed. All of this was caused by a cultivator called Su Fang. I guess everyone is familiar with him, especially the North King. Su Fang." Everyone in the hall was shocked. 2 people had the biggest reaction. One was the great Emperor Dipper, who sat below the emperor. The other was the heretical crown prince. Everyone was discussing. They did not believe that the Doichi realm had been destroyed. They did not want an immortal from the lower realm to die just like that. Prince Shui's heart was in turmoil. He did not care about what others were saying. Su Fang, I have a whole new level of respect for you. You actually killed Xian Dao Tian. Good. How did you do it? You are not strong enough to deal with an immortal. After a while, one of the great princes said, what we did before was beneficial to our empire. We lost Senior North King, but at least we still have the support of the immortal primordial realm. Now that the immortal primordial realm has sealed itself, it is clear that they want to stay out of this. Moreover, the immortal primordial realm lord has probably reached some kind of agreement with Su Fang. They actually stopped contacting our empire. The emperor has already decided to officially send troops to that nebula. Everyone, go back and start preparing. The hall instantly fell silent. Everyone was shocked. They turned and left the hall. I did not expect Su Fang to be the one who really stole the immortal primordial realm from the Xinyuan Empire. This really surprised me. So, Su Fang had already come to this part of the Milky Way when he was still in the immortal sealing sect. I have already obtained the power of purification from the Xinyuan Empire's immortal Jing Suifeng. I am about to break through the last realm and ascend to the greater realm. But I will not ascend now. Since the Xinyuan Empire is going to use all their strength to deal with Su Fang, then I will have to watch Su Fang get killed before I can ascend with peace of mind. Among the crowd, Prince Shui, who had an ugly expression in the hall, was now beaming with joy under the support of Xueling, the crown prince, and the others. Next, the former disciples of the Venerable Dao would fight in this part of the Milky Way again. Prince Shui was obviously looking forward to this day. Immortal Primordial Realm. In the sky, Su Fang and the Undying Tortoise met. Su Fang, who had reached Immortal Realm Stage 8, had become even more powerful. The injuries caused by the Heart Dao Heaven had also healed. Flying Immortal Realm. He looked at the sky and stepped on the void. There were still Immortal Realm Stage 9 and Immortal Realm Stage 10 before he could enter the last realm of the Lesser Realm. In reality, at Immortal Realm Stage 8, he already had the ability to surpass most of the Realm Masters. There were probably only a handful of Realm Masters who could match up to him. Immortal Realm Stage 8. He had already reached the peak of the Lesser Realm. As long as he stepped into Immortal Realm Stage 9 and Stage 10, his ability would surpass any cultivator in the Lesser Realm. He appeared in the former Doichi Realm, which was now within the boundary of the Sky Crossing Sect. The Realm Master of the Immortal Primordial Realm was already waiting with a large number of Origin Source cultivators. Clearly, he had sensed that Su Fang's ability had increased again. The Realm Master's expression changed. Su Fang looked at the Realm Master of the Immortal Primordial Realm and said, "How many strong martial artists and their resources have been suppressed this time? According to Master's decree, more than half of the forces have been destroyed. Millions of cultivators have submitted. However, there are only a few tens of thousands of Immortal Realm cultivators. They are currently waiting in a nearby area. The other forces have also chosen to submit. Now there are countless forces in the Immortal Primordial Realm, but none of them dare to cause trouble. Then gather these tens of thousands of Immortal Realm strong martial artists. Also, you can send tens of thousands of strong martial artists. I want 100,000 Immortal Realm cultivators to follow me to the Mortal Emperor world in a year's time. Then, we will face the Xinyuan Empire head-on. Then, what else do I need to prepare? You don't need to participate in this war. What you need to do is to protect the Immortal Primordial Realm like before. Don't let any accidents happen and let the Xinyuan Empire obtain or destroy the Immortal Primordial Realm. However, there is no need to worry. The Xinyuan Empire won't have the energy to deal with the Immortal Primordial Realm. I can gather more men to follow Master into battle. Give me some time, and I can gather hundreds of thousands of men. That's not necessary. If you can conserve your strength, don't waste it. Moreover, I have brought 300,000 strong martial artists from the Beichen Zone and the Wu-Tan domain. Together with the strength of the Mortal Emperor world, hundreds of thousands of strong martial artists will be enough to attack the Xinyuan Empire. However, the Xinyuan Empire has more than 1,000,000 soldiers. In addition, all the internal forces listen to their orders. I estimate that there will be millions or even tens of millions of people participating in the war. There is nothing to be afraid of. My only enemies are that immortal called Jing Suifeng and another immortal. That immortal is called Immortal Master Ling Exin. He is an exceptional immortal from a great world. His strength is far superior to Jing Suifeng, Jing Beihuang, and Xian Daotian. You know him. At this moment, Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. The immortal primordial domain lord said honestly, I have met him a few times. Xian Daotian introduced me to him. This immortal master Ling Xian comes from the immortal Ao Great World. Coincidentally, the previous domain lords of the immortal primordial domain all ascended to the immortal Ao Great World. According to Xian Daotian, he and Jing Suifeng invited immortal master Ling Xian to come to the lower domain. It seems like they are here for some secret treasure passed down from the mortal emperor world. Alright, tell me everything you know. It was an unexpected gain to be able to obtain more secrets about immortal master Ling Xian and Jing Suifeng from the immortal primordial domain lord. 1 year later, the immortal primordial domain's world barrier suddenly opened. 100,000 strong martial artists angrily flew out with their auras. Su Fang brought the big goblin and released his control power. He brought the 100,000 strong martial artists and slowly flew to the other side of the Star River. At this moment, Su Fang had already informed the Lord of Five Poisons, Li Ziqing, Green Feather Monarch, and many other strong martial artists to start moving the mortal emperor world out of the star region deep in the nebula. Once Xian Daotian died, the mortal emperor world would no longer need to hide. Because of the early preparations, the mortal emperor world would probably appear from the star region behind the Xinyuan Empire soon. During this period, Su Fang merged the power of many immortal fruits with impotence pills and distributed them to the 100,000 strong martial artists. After that, he also started to make use of this long journey to cultivate. He wanted to reach the strength of Immortal Transformation Stage 8 as soon as possible. Chapter 837. Just as Su Fang led 100,000 experts from the immortal primordial world to the Xinyuan Empire, a huge planet was slowly leaving the nebula Star River under the migration of thousands of big goblin. Li Haojie floated in front of thousands of big goblin, releasing a layer of blood curse aura. Clearly, this aura allowed him to control more than 3,000 big goblin. Therefore, the entire human emperor world was rapidly moving toward the primordial god world. Brother Li. Several experts flew over from the nebula Star River. One of them released a small amount of Dao Treasure's power, allowing him to reach the speed of teleportation in the nebula Star River. The cultivator leading the experts was Su Zhenhua. Li Haojie nodded. Did you find anything? The Xinyuan Empire's 1,000,000 soldiers are stationed outside the shattered nebula Star River. They've formed a large number of attack formations and are in a constant state of battle. The Xinyuan Empire has more than 1,000,000 soldiers. According to the news from Master, they probably have tens of millions of troops. Clearly, they know that Master has taken down the immortal primordial world, so they don't dare to send their troops to the primordial god world. Inform the seniors of this news. See you later. With an astonishing momentum, Su Zhenhua and several experts flew towards the moving human sovereign world behind them. Brother Fang, you're very capable. Back when you were in the Celestial Sealing Sect, you were able to capture the big goblin with your ordinary cultivation and compete with experts. Now you actually have 4 small worlds. Once you take down the Xinyuan Empire, you'll be the first realm lord to control 5 small worlds in this nebula Star River. Li Haojia's eyes flashed with a smile that was even more profound than the nebula star river. Then, Saintess Aozhen and some big goblin appeared by his side to help him move the human emperor world to the maximum. A few years passed. In the empty nebula star river between the primordial god world and the immortal primordial world, the 100,000 soldiers were approaching the primordial god world at a very normal speed. Their speed was estimated to be between the Tribulation Realm and the Ascension Realm. There was still a long way to go before they could teleport. After all, there were many people. An army of 100,000 soldiers couldn't travel freely in the Nebula Star River like individual cultivators. At this speed, it would take a few more years to reach the primordial god world. However, some big shots quickly flew over from the primordial god world. It turned out that Bai Ling had brought some experts to scout out the Xinyuan Empire's movements in advance. They had probably found something and were rushing over to join them. With Bai Ling's help, in addition to the powerhouses who had an incomparable understanding of the primordial god world, he estimated that this trip would be a great harvest. Su Fang sat cross-legged in the center, leading 100,000 experts as if they had fallen into a deep sleep. In reality, he had been cultivating all this time. Furthermore, as soon as Bai Ling appeared, he opened his eyes and instantly leaped through space to meet up with Bai Ling in front of the army. Bai Ling said anxiously, "The primordial god world seems to know everything about the immortal primordial world. They know that we are going to attack the primordial god world. Now they have tens of thousands of soldiers, and they are forming a formation in front of the primordial god world. They are obviously waiting for us. There is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. In addition, the primordial god world and the immortal primordial world are on good terms. The Xinyuan Empire must have established forces in the immortal primordial world, or they must have placed troops there. Brother, since you have already thought of this, why don't you ask the immortal primordial world lord to come out and pull out those nails one by one? We can't kill them all, and we can't remove them all. Who knows how many troops the Xinyuan Empire has placed in the immortal primordial world? If the immortal primordial world lord knew, he would definitely tell me. Fortunately, these people can't do anything. Sister Bai, I will have to trouble you to pay attention to the immortal primordial world's movements." Don't worry. Bai Ling brought those experts and left in an instant. There are still a few years before we can reach the primordial god world. During this time, the primordial god world is probably preparing for war. Once the human sovereign world moves out, the flames of war will burn this nebula. He sat down cross-legged again and slowly advanced with the army in the nebula. He was also cultivating with all his might. Fortunately, the 12th Yang Meridian had been born, and he was cultivating the 9 Yang transformations. His cultivation speed had increased again, and he had also swallowed a lot of resources. He had reached the full cultivation level of the Ascendant Transformation Realm. Soon, with his cultivation speed, he would definitely enter the 9th level of the Ascendant Transformation Realm. The 100,000 experts had also refined the resources given to them previously. Many of them had started to condense immortal spiritual qi in their bodies. This was the best opportunity to help them pass the last great tribulation of the heavenly calamity and obtain an immortal spiritual body before they ascended. In order to increase the overall strength of the army and to make these 100,000 experts work for him, Su Fang took out some immortal pills. After some effort, he separated the immortal pills into countless small pieces and merged them with the impotence pills. They became impotence pills that had the aura of a great realm. After the 100,000 experts obtained the impotence pills, their auras changed significantly. I can vaguely feel the power of faith surging from their bodies. Everything is not in vain. Suppressing them is not difficult. The key is to make them submit wholeheartedly. In the midst of cultivation, Su Fang, who was in control of the Milky Way, could feel the shocking changes in each of the 100,000 experts. In order to let these experts fight with the Xinyuan Empire face to face, Su Fang decided to impart the Holy Emperor Divine Origin scripture to them. This was what it meant to know one's enemy. Obtaining the Holy Emperor Divine Origin scripture made all the experts in disbelief. This was a supreme cultivation technique from the Xinyuan Empire's royal family. It was famous in the Milky Way. How could Su Fang have mastered it? This caused many people to view Su Fang as a celestial being. They couldn't understand how a cultivator who had cultivated for hundreds of years could possess abilities that cultivators of the mortal realm could only look up to. While raising the 100,000 experts, Su Fang also separated the immortal pills into large pieces in the small heaven and earth immortal gourd and gave them to the big goblin to swallow. One immortal pill was only enough for 5 to 6 big goblin to swallow. Among them, Zhu Huang was especially powerful. He could swallow a third of the immortal pills in one go. As expected of the ancient pig horse king, Zhu Huang's current realm and strength had reached the peak of 3 heavenly disasters. Of course, the most terrifying one was the undying heavenly venerable and the undying tortoise. This guy could swallow an immortal pill almost directly. Similar to Su Fang, he was even more abnormal than Su Fang. Su Fang cut an immortal pill into countless pieces and implanted them into his body. The undying tortoise swallowed an immortal pill in one gulp. Clearly, in terms of strength and physical strength, Su Fang, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and the other big goblins could not compare to the undying tortoise. Originally, Su Fang planned to use the few immortal pills he had obtained until he ascended to the great world. But thinking about it, there was no tomorrow, so how could there be a future? Only by grasping today could he decide tomorrow and create the future. It was true that the immortal pills were precious, but they could help him control this galaxy. So what if he used them? The resources were inexhaustible. During this time, Su Fang secretly let the Blood Ghost True Demon swallow the immortal pills. The Blood Ghost True Demon's ability was probably the most terrifying in Su Fang's hands. It was not afraid of poison and could release a unique poison that even immortals were afraid of. Its combat strength was also at the peak, and it had a near-immortal body. This time, the Blood Ghost True Demon would be the key to his victory in the battle against the Xinyuan Empire. Little did he know. When Su Fang felt a familiar emperor's qi from the gales in front of him, he immediately looked forward and could see the primordial god world clearly. He was finally close. He estimated that he would be able to reach the primordial god world's barrier in 2 years. Using his great perfection ability, he could clearly see that there were nearly 1,000,000 soldiers around the barrier. The Xinyuan Empire was completely surrounded. Soon, the experts from the Xinyuan Empire would also sense the 100,000 soldiers. Sect Master and Senior Peng will probably take about 10 years to move the Mortal Emperor world out. He contacted the Mortal Emperor world. Soon, he had a telepathic conversation with the Lord of 5 Poisons. The Mortal Emperor world was a huge planet and a world. It was unbelievably fast to be able to move out continuously in the past few years. After all, it was moving a small world. Why don't I sneak into the primordial god world in the next few years and go to the core of the planet and take the opportunity to start fusing with the world's essence? When I master a large amount of the primordial god world's world power, won't I be able to display more amazing abilities in the Xinyuan Empire? Since he had to wait for the Mortal Emperor world for a few years, Su Fang decisively made a decision. After waiting for a while, Bai Ling came to the army. Leaving Bai Ling in charge of the army, Su Fang flew towards the primordial god world alone at a speed comparable to passing through a door. In just 10 breaths, he crossed the cold river of stars and arrived in front of the barrier of the primordial god world. The entire barrier of the primordial god world was in a half-sealed state. There were probably many experts guarding the barrier. Su Fang activated the World Grand Magic and the Ethereal Enlightenment. It took a lot of effort to pass through the barrier of the world and enter the God world. He then flew toward the primordial God world. He had to be careful because there were two immortals here. In addition, the Xinyuan Empire was extremely powerful. He could not rule out the possibility of being discovered. In order to hide himself well, he chose a natural stronghold. The natural stronghold was a moving forest. Su Fang carefully sensed that there was an indescribable natural force in the space where the natural stronghold was located, which made the forest constantly move. It took him an hour to reach the depths of the earth's core. He released the wooling goblin and hid it in the Demon King's aura. It followed him to the core of the earth's core. There are many runes with the Holy Emperor Divine Origin Scriptures aura planted in the depths of the earth's core. I wonder how many realm lords of the Xinyuan Empire left them behind after generations of merging with the world's power. Many of the cores also have a strong blood qi. The cores of the Zhuotian realm, Wu Tan realm, Beichen zone, and Immortal Primordial realm haven't reached such a level of fusion. The Xinyuan Empire is indeed extraordinary. It has already merged with the Xinyuan Empire to such a degree, more than half of all the small world. If this continues, the experts of the Xinyuan Empire's Jing clan will definitely merge with the Xinyuan Empire to an astonishing degree. These runes and blood qi can't be removed. If I touch them, I'll definitely be discovered by the origin experts of the Xinyuan Empire. There should be a lot of them around the Earth's core. Su Fang's heart was shaken when he saw the large amount of merged energy. The wooling goblin was even more careful. It went deeper into the Earth's core where there was no merged aura of the Xinyuan Empire. It took a while for it to reach the Earth's core. More than half of the Earth's core was filled with the merged aura of the Xinyuan Empire. Fortunately, there was no merged aura in the Earth's core, but there were some runes sealed here. The ultimate goal of the realm lords of the Xinyuan Empire was probably to merge with the Earth's core before merging with the Earth's core. In the end, they would merge with the entire small world and become a cultivator who could truly control the world's power, just like the mysterious woman said. The wooling goblin spent a lot of effort and only managed to reach 1/3 of the Earth's core. It was too tired. It would probably take a few more years to reach the center of the Earth's core. Anyway, Su Fang had already used his world mystique to sense that there were no world fragments in the Earth's core. He immediately let the wooling goblin's body change. It coiled up like a cage, and Su Fang sat in the middle and released his essence blood into the Earth's core. Chapter 838. The Xinyuan Empire had yet to integrate the core of the planet, so they only controlled the core of the planet. Using blood to integrate the core of the planet would actually be discovered by the Xinyuan Empire. However, by the time they arrived, the war might have already ended. Activating the power of the world, Su Fang began to devour a large amount of the world's essence and the world's force in the core of the planet. With the help of the wooling goblin, the speed of his integration with the core of the Xinyuan Empire doubled. What kind of speed was this? Originally, Su Fang's cultivation speed was already unparalleled. Now it doubled again. This was truly unprecedented. What was the use of the wooling goblin? Of course, it was transformed from a mountain ridge. Naturally, it was a monster of the earth element. It could be said that no matter how powerful an earth element cultivator was, they could not compare to 1/5 of its ability. Even Su Fang blushed with shame. He had the earth element ability of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Even so, the last time he obtained the fragment of the world, and this time he sneaked into the core of the planet in a very short time, were all the abilities of the wooling goblin. Su Fang only played a small role in this. In order to cooperate with Su Fang, the wooling goblin released an amazing earth element ability from its demon body. It gradually spiritualized the earth element around the core of the planet bit by bit. It seemed to make the strange rocks in the core of the planet become a part of its body. It was too much to say, but at least it allowed its power to integrate with the core of the planet to a certain extent. Under such integration, Su Fang could directly absorb the world's essence and force in the core of the planet through its body. Wouldn't it be a natural thing to do? Therefore, the speed of his integration with the Xinyuan Empire was raised to the extreme like never before. In the depths of the planet's core, there was no luster and no temperature. However, gradually, around the rock demon body where the Wuling Goblin was entrenched, there was a burning aura of the world. It turned out that after a large amount of world's essence and force poured in and was absorbed by Su Fang, its aura and world's essence reached the extreme state. Moreover, the Wuling Goblin's demon body was originally the color of black stone. However, at this time, when Su Fangda was absorbing the world's essence and force through its demon body showed a faint golden-white color. Especially the world's essence absorbed by the Wuling Goblin's demon body automatically integrated. The Wuling Goblin was surprised. "Master, I don't know why. I can absorb the world's essence of the Xinyuan Empire at a very fast speed too. I just realized that it's because of you. You're absorbing world energy." In truth, Su Fang had also noticed this change. This subordinate spiritual body is not like humans who can cultivate at will. Even if I can absorb the world's power of the primordial God world, my speed will not reach such a shocking level. Back in the immortal melody world, this subordinate lived for tens of thousands of years and went to the planet's core several times, but did not absorb much world's power. Then what's going on? This requires Master to explain. However, this subordinate feels that all of this seems to be a fusion with Master. It is through Master's ability that the world's essence is naturally added to this subordinate's body. Is that so? Strange. In fact, Su Fang did not care before. After all, he was the one who borrowed the Wuling Goblin's spiritual body. First, he petrified the planet's core, then he absorbed the world's essence. During this process, the Wuling Goblin could naturally absorb the world's power. But now, he slowly focused his attention on his surroundings. His senses penetrated and covered himself, the Wuling Goblin, and the surrounding planet's core. The world's essence in the planet's core constantly flowed into the Wuling Goblin's body and was then absorbed by him. After he absorbed it, a mysterious divine power was released, which allowed the Wuling Goblin to absorb the world's power quickly. The reason was indeed on him. Following this mysterious divine power, he sensed the 12 yang meridians in his body. So it was because of the yang meridians. The yang meridians were formed by pure yang energy and pure yin energy. It also came from the 9 yang 9 transformations. The yin and yang energy seemed to be the most mysterious energy at the beginning of the world. It also had a certain connection with the world's essence and origin power. All of this seemed to be caused by the yin and yang energy. The world's essence that entered the depths of the yang meridians was suddenly pleasantly surprised. The origin power from the golden lotus stone flower seemed to be releasing even more dazzling the moment he absorbed the world's essence. Could it be that the world's fragments and the world's essence are related to the world's mysterious energy? Could it be that the key to truly fusing the world's fragments is the world's essence that also comes from the vast world? The world's cultivation is very long. Many world lords have fused with small worlds but have not truly fused them. Even the Xinyuan Empire is the same. I cannot rush it. In the future, I will use the world's power and the yin and yang energy to fuse with the world's fragments and fuse with the golden lotus stone flower. The reason why the Wuling Goblin was able to absorb the world's essence was actually the mysterious power of the yang meridians in his body. It also contained the yin and yang energy, the world's fragments, and so on. Of course, to truly decipher the reason, he would have to wait until the future when he truly understood the 9 yang 9 transformations, the world's fragments, and the true meaning of cultivation. Since that was the case, He would let the wooling goblin absorb the world's essence without restraint. A human and a demon were in the depths of the world, madly fusing with the world. At this moment, in the Xinyuan Empire, in the boundless territory, there were countless imperial cities built by the Xinyuan Empire, as well as feudal vassals. A large number of soldiers and cultivators surged out from these imperial cities. Even the cultivation forces established in the primordial god world began to send out a large number of cultivators. These cultivators were all between the tribulation realm and the flying immortal realm. The ascendant transformation realm was the backbone, and almost all of them were ascendant transformation realm cultivators. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the sky was filled with locusts pouncing on their prey. Thrones appeared in the sky one after another. Those who could use the thrones were all vassals. A large number of spirit beasts also appeared from all directions, dragging thrones behind them. Empires and dynasties were also common in other small worlds. However, the only empire with such power that covered the entire small world was probably the Xinyuan Empire. In the depths of the earth, in the primordial god imperial city, there were also tens of thousands of soldiers in the surroundings. They were leaving the imperial city with various generals. There were also thrones floating above them. There were more than a dozen factions. The largest 4 factions were the 4 great emperors. Then there were the princes and marquises. My lord, this is a rare sight. There are millions of soldiers and countless cultivators. The great Emperor Dipper was overseeing one of the factions. He sat on the largest throne, and there were hundreds of thrones behind him. On a throne very close to him was the former disciple of the Immortal Bestowment sect, the current crown prince of the heretical path, Prince Shui. When the former members of the Crown Prince faction saw that the world was filled with soldiers and cultivators, and that their cultivation and strength were all above theirs, they couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Prince Shui coldly shouted, "Calm down! How ignorant!" Xueleng and a few other experts of the Shui family came over, their gazes ferocious. "Patriarch, this time we have to seize this opportunity to kill Su Fang. Back then, he killed our Shui family members. This debt of blood must be repaid with blood. Today is different from the past. Su Fang's strength is unfathomable. Back then, I was careless and lost my left arm because of that. Furthermore, he doesn't come with good intentions. Now that I've passed 3 heavenly disasters, I can bring you all to the outside world. He's not simple. If you can kill him, kill him. If you can't, don't waste time. Ascending to the outside world is more important. Once I become an immortal, I'll be able to shine in the outside world. In particular, I have to quickly find a few spiritual items in the outside world to regrow my left arm." What heretical crown prince? How many people in the Xinyuan Empire used that title to mock me? That despicable Xinyuan Empire. When I become stronger in the outside world, I'll definitely suppress all those immortals in the Xinyuan Empire. Then I'll go down and destroy the primordial god world. In front of a few experts of the Shui family, Prince Shui also hated Su Fang so much that he bared his teeth. But compared to the Xinyuan Empire, he hated the Xinyuan Empire even more. When the great Emperor Dipper asked Jing Suifeng to help me cleanse my marrow, he secretly planted a sealing energy. He thought I wouldn't sense it. Naturally, he wouldn't help me become stronger for free. He gave me strength in exchange for making them submit. Did he think that this little bit of sealing energy would be able to shackle me, Prince Shui? Didn't he think about how extraordinary the immortal legacy I received was? After a round of mocking, Prince Shui ordered his subordinates to quiet down. Not long after, a huge winged spirit beast flew out of the imperial city, pulling a palace behind it. This scene was truly spectacular. The one driving the golden palace was the current emperor of the Xinyuan Empire. Suddenly, a terrifying aura appeared in the depths of the imperial city. A black eagle, at least 300 meters in size, rose from the imperial city out of nowhere. Two ethereal cultivators sat cross-legged on the back of the giant eagle. Immortal! Monster immortal! An uproar broke out. Half of the sky was in an uproar. Countless cultivators were attracted by the giant eagle. Because from the giant eagle's demonic light and aura, all of its aura was immortal. If its aura was a bit stronger, it could probably instantly crush the entire imperial city into rubble. Monster immortal, it was an invincible existence in this small world. How could the cultivators of the mortal world not be shocked? Not to mention the giant eagle attacking, just a glance was enough to kill a large number of experts of the Xinyuan Empire. Monster immortals were immortals, far stronger than humans. Then who could control a monster immortal? There were two figures on its back. One of them had fused with the aura of the primordial god world, and the other was even more ethereal. But what they had in common was that their aura had a certain immortal aura. Immortals. Two immortals. They must be the lower realm immortals called Jing Suifeng and Immortal Master Ling Exen. Emperor Shen Yuan waved his hand and summoned a large number of experts with the aura of the Xinyuan Empire from the palace on the back of the spirit beast. They were the imperial family of the Xinyuan Empire, and the cultivators of the Xinyuan Empire's origin. Emperor Shen Yuan looked at the four princes and ordered, 4 great emperors, immediately take control of the primordial god world's world barrier according to the deployment. Also, create the origin of the formation so that many experts can condense their magic power. Once the war starts, the various armies will have the origin to use. We obey the emperor's decree. The 4 great emperors ordered their subordinates to slowly move in all directions. To be able to kill the northern emperor, this Su Fang is not simple. He must have a method to kill immortals. On the back of the giant eagle, the Xinyuan Empire's immortal, Jing Suifeng, was politely saying to the immortal next to him, "We can't be careless. That kid probably has some kind of power behind him, or he has the support of an immortal. Since he obtained the human emperor's inheritance, that secret must be in his hands." That immortal looked to be in his 40s. The treasures left behind by the misty Taoist are a legend in the greater world. Furthermore, his misty Taoist arts are rumored to be comparable to the Tao of emperors. This person must be killed. Since we came to the lower realms, we must obtain the things we must obtain. He thought that if he defeated us one by one, he would have an opportunity. Who knew that we still had a monster immortal? Jing Suifeng smiled and continued to wait for the countless experts of the Xinyuan Empire to gather. Chapter 839. Outside the primordial god world. Suddenly, a galactic storm appeared in the depths of the nebula star field. It looked like a natural storm, but inside it was a planet that was gradually moving. Human Emperor World. The 3 big shots and Li Haojie were following thousands of big goblin as they moved the planet. They looked at the familiar starry river in front of them. At this moment, the Lord of 5 Poisons looked like a statue carved by a knife. Su Fang is absorbing the essence of the primordial god world, secretly integrating the power of the world. What we need to do is to move the human emperor world from the left side of the primordial god world to the middle of the immortal primordial world and meet up with the 100,000 hidden troops there. Li Ziqing murmured, "I think the primordial god world will discover and control us before we meet up. It's impossible for such a planet to pass by the primordial god world silently. Once it's discovered, one of us must immediately lead people to fight. If the Xinyuan Empire separates us into 2 star fields, it will greatly affect our overall strength." The first battle. The sect leader suddenly looked at them. "They think that I, the Lord of 5 Poisons, am really dead. I want revenge. The destruction of the sect is not something that can be resolved with the fall of the Tao of Heaven. The Xinyuan Empire killed my believers. I want them to know what fear is in the first battle." The others saw how strong the sect leader was, but they couldn't change his mind. They could only acquiesce to his suggestion. The human emperor world gradually appeared in the nebula under Li Haojie's control of thousands of big goblin. It suddenly appeared from the empty star field on the right side of the primordial god world. It was still a distance away. The Lord of Five Poisons had returned to the barrier of the human emperor world. 30,000 people had gathered in the sky. Anchu had also brought over 1,000 survivors from the divine sect. The Five Venoms Order Master did not hesitate to hand over the Five Venoms Divine Ability Heart Sutra that he had mastered to the 30,000 expert. It was estimated. The Lord of Five Poisons wanted to show off in the first battle. He wanted the Xinyuan Empire to know how powerful the Five Poisons sect was. The mortal emperor world was gradually moving away from the primordial god world's star system and away from that desolate star system. Looking at it with the naked eye, the primordial god world was like a moon, while the mortal emperor world was like a fist-sized meteorite shining with starlight. Primordial god world, there were still many troops gathered in the surroundings, ready to attack at any moment. A burst of supreme divine might was released in the air above the world barrier. Within this boundary, a large number of thrones floated. Emperor Xinyuan sat in front of the central golden palace. He was not just an emperor. At the same time, he was also the realm lord of Xinyuan Empire. It was the emperor, the realm lord. At this moment, a starlight vortex appeared in his eyes. Large amounts of starlight patterns were surging towards him like a spiral. Mortal Emperor World Aura. A slight ripple of starlight caused his eyes to suddenly become hale and hearty. Looking at the star domain to the side, it was impossible to see that far with the naked eye. The primordial god world was close to the infinite nebula. From time to time, some nebulas, storms, and other galactic remnants would appear in the nearby star field. However, the Origin God Emperor seemed to be able to see through all of this and immediately issued an order. 5 old men with extremely high cultivations flew out of the Origin God world, shuttling towards the star field in front of them, their speed reaching the level of teleportation. They waited for a few days. A thought appeared in front of Emperor Xinyuan. Emperor, the mortal emperor world that has disappeared for many years is indeed ahead. It is moving towards the central star domain with thousands of big goblin migrating, and it is moving very quickly. Emperor Xinyuan's eyebrows immediately appeared. Is that so? Thousands of big goblin migrating too quickly. There are estimated to be 3,000 or 4,000 big goblin, and their strength is around the flying celestial realm. They released chains and merged with the mortal emperor world. They are all big goblin that have reached such a realm. Who has such ability? Even the Xinyuan Empire can't forcefully command the demon race and force so many big goblin to work for our empire, especially so many big goblin that have reached the flying celestial realm. That is unknown. The mortal emperor world has an army of 100,000 coming from the immortal primordial realm, and now the mortal emperor world has appeared again. Emperor Xinyuan pondered for a while. Soon, the wills of the 4 great emperors floated over. Once they learned that the mortal emperor world had appeared, the 4 great emperors were very shocked. One of the great emperors said, "Your Majesty, let this king send out the troops and take down the mortal emperor world first. Isn't it just a few thousand big goblin and a few experts?" Although this is my plan to take down the mortal emperor world, Emperor Xinyuan waved his hand. We are not the main force. We have chess pieces that we can use. Why not use them? Chess pieces? The great Emperor Dipper couldn't understand at the moment. After Emperor Xinyuan smiled, he glanced behind him. The 4 great emperors almost simultaneously understood what chess pieces were. The great Emperor Dipper smiled lightly and said, "Your Majesty is a man of great talent and strategy. That Doichi has requested for us to send troops and cooperate with them to take back the immortal primordial realm and destroy the 100,000 troops controlled by the Su Fang." Of course, we can't send troops rashly. However, the time has come. It is time to make use of Doichi and the cultivators recruited from the immortal primordial realm for our use. Big Dipper King, you will personally go and give the order to Master Limitless. You will also go with him to deal with the mortal Emperor world. This way, Master Limitless can be at ease. In the end, the immortal primordial realm's forces will help us take back the mortal Emperor world. With Master Limitless forces, taking back the mortal Emperor world shouldn't be a problem. Alright. The great Emperor Dipper accepted the order and left. The wills of the other three great emperors dissipated. Emperor Xinyuan smiled coldly and said, "Let's take this opportunity to make Doichi completely lose his ability to fight. After that, we will annex the immortal primordial realm and take back the mortal Emperor world. Our empire will then have the territory of 3 lesser realms in this galaxy." In less than half a day, 2 formations appeared from the primordial god world's barrier. One of the formations had about 230,000 people, all of whom were releasing the aura of the immortal primordial realm. The other formation had about 100,000 people, all of whom were releasing the aura of the Xinyuan Empire. At the front of the 2 formations, the leader of Doichi, Master Limitless, and the Xinyuan Empire's great Emperor Dipper, 2 peerless figures, led close to 400,000 cultivators behind them. They kept increasing their speed and advanced towards the depths of the galaxy that didn't have any planet. With so many people in the 2 formations, they caused a wave of stars to appear as they traveled through the galaxy. There is indeed the aura of the mortal Emperor world. They have sent people to the galaxy to stop the mortal Emperor world's advance. A pair of eyes and a large number of floating motionless figures were hidden in the galaxy in front of the mortal Emperor world. This person was the Lord of 5 Poisons, whose name had shaken the region hundreds of thousands of years ago. Moreover, in the nebula below him, there was a huge army of puppets floating in silence. The puppet army wasn't made up of humans, but of the 5 Poisons. There were too many of them. There were probably tens of thousands of them. They didn't have any life, and they hid in the nebula. They didn't release any poison gas, and were hibernating in the galaxy. Sister Yu was surrounded by ice particles. Master, our Sect's 5 Poisons formation is ready. Everyone can control it. The Xinyuan Empire seems to have hundreds of thousands of troops. If we launch a sneak attack, we can only use the 5 Poisons to deal with them. My good disciple, I created this 5 Poisons formation so that tens of thousands of experts can cooperate with me to unleash the 5 Poisons' true body. I can use the 5 Poisons that I have refined for countless years to attack the Xinyuan Empire's army. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the 5 Poisons formation was already a headache for the Xinyuan Empire. After the Lord of 5 Poisons finished speaking, he suddenly revealed a surprised smile. Most of the troops are from the immortal primordial domain. The great Emperor Dipper has brought close to 100,000 troops. I understand now. The Xinyuan Empire wants to kill with a borrowed knife. This is great. The immortal primordial domain's cultivators don't know much about our sect. This time, we will focus on dealing with the immortal primordial domain's expert. Sister Yu received the order and left. After waiting for another half a year, hundreds of thousands of troops appeared in the galaxy below. It was Master Wuji and the great Emperor Dipper. As for the human Emperor world, it was approaching the immortal primordial domain from the galaxy in front of them. 5 Poisons' true body, primordial avatar, true god space, poison region descends. At this moment, the army was passing under the tens of thousands of troops hidden in the galaxy above. Suddenly, the Lord of 5 Poisons' entire body transformed into countless 5 Poisons. It was as if the Lord of 5 Poisons had become blood goo, horned scorpion, white toad, silver snake, and spirit spider. The blood goo, horned scorpion, white toad, silver snake, and spirit spider seemed to be alive as they were released by the Lord of 5 Poisons. A large number of mysterious webs entangled these monsters. The countless auras in the formation were also attracted by these monsters. Then, the blood-venomous insects, the horned scorpions, the white toads, the silver snakes, and the spirit spiders suddenly pounced on the hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the ground. They opened their mouths and breathed out horrible poisonous gas, or peeled off poisonous patterns from their bodies. Soon, a vast wave of poisonous and twisted starlight was formed in this galaxy, covering the hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the ground. Looking from afar with the naked eye, one could see that the Milky Way had formed a twisted poisonous gas above the army. It's the 5 poisons of the 5 poisons divine sect. Impossible. Wasn't the 5 poisons divine sect wiped out? In an instant, the poison gas distorted the starry sky and was about to devour the army. Master Wuji and the great Emperor Dipper had only just appeared. They probably had the advantage in numbers and did not take the human emperor world seriously. They did not expect such a shocking poison gas to appear at this time. Hundreds of thousands of cultivators exclaimed in shock. In an instant, barriers began to appear slowly from the edges and the center. They merged and connected one by one. However, there were so many cultivators and they were in the Milky Way. The great array didn't merge in time above the hundreds of thousands of cultivators. The 5 poisons pressed down just like that. Just like the heavenly tribulation, the wind rose and the clouds surged. The formation and the poison were devouring and suppressing each other. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 5 poisons divine sect was still under the support of tens of thousands of people. Their strength was not much different from that of an immortal. He shouted, 5 poisons puppet army, kill! Tens of thousands of hidden 5 poisons puppets rushed down the galaxy. They were more ferocious than hungry wolves pouncing on sheep. The great Emperor Dipper and Master Wuji also launched their attack. However, the 5 poisons poison began to spread in a large area in the starry sky. It shrouded this part of the galaxy like a cloud. Even if the poison was weakened a lot, it would still make the cultivators suffer. The attacks of formations and Dharma treasures barely rose into the sky and killed the 5 poisons puppet army. Many cultivators who were invaded by the 5 poisons poison were not controlled by the Doichi and the Xinyuan Empire's decrees. They began to struggle and flee in group. Blood goo, horned scorpion, white toad, silver snake, spirit spider, go! The Lord of 5 poisons absorbed the power of the formation behind the tens of thousands of cultivators. Suddenly, he pressed down with both hands. Behind the puppet army, 5 tens of thousands of feet long blood goo, horned scorpion, white toad, silver snake, and spirit spider appeared in the galaxy. The army of puppets, as well as the various attacks that came from the opposite direction, collided and engulfed each other in the Milky Way. The galaxy instantly turned into an indescribable state of fried dough twist. Chapter 840. The mortal sovereign world was on the move. Li Haojie, Lord Greenfeather, and Li Ziqing, the 3 powerhouses, were paying attention to every movement on the galactic battlefield in front of them. When they saw that the galactic battlefield was completely distorted and a large number of 5 poisons were exploding like fireworks, their worried expressions disappeared slightly. The Lord of 5 poisons was so powerful that he could dominate the galaxy with his invincible divine powers. With only tens of thousands of people, he could hold back hundreds of thousands of troops. This was why he could fight with the Xinyuan Empire again and again more than 100,000 years ago. For this reason, Li Haojie controlled the big goblin and sped up the migration. The other powerhouses didn't dare to be careless and gathered under the barrier. Everyone knew how powerful the Xinyuan Empire was, and no one knew where a large number of powerhouses would come from. This was a war between small worlds. The stronger the person, the stronger the force. Deep in the core of the primordial god world, Su Feng, who was using the ability of Wooling Goblin to devour the essence of the world, felt a certain vibration in the primordial God world. He released his great perfection ability and separated a trace of his consciousness to clearly see that there were armies everywhere in the primordial God world, and there were currently millions of them. Then, he activated the origin of the primordial God world that had been integrated during this period of time. In addition, he had devoured the true body of the great Emperor Dipper and the golden core of the third prince. The essence of the primordial God world in his body had reached a very shocking level. Almost, except for the current emperor of the primordial God world, no other cultivator of the origin could have more astonishing essence of the Xinyuan Empire than him. Because of this, when he displayed the power of the primordial God world, his great perfection ability reached a height that could penetrate the heavens and the earth. It was almost as if he was looking down on his own territory. Millions. Not only that, but there were millions of cultivators of the Ascension realm and the flying celestial realm gathered under the barrier of the primordial God world, and countless forces on the ground were gathering more cultivators. It was estimated the entire primordial God world would have tens of millions of cultivators participating in the war. The situation of the primordial God world is too different from the Wu-Tan realm and the Beichen zone. The world is ruled by an emperor, and the emperor restricts the laws of the world. This weakens the power of cultivators. Once an army is gathered, the countless cultivators of the primordial God world can be used by the Xinyuan Empire. Tens of millions of practitioners, and most of them are experts in the feather transformation realm. Regardless of whether it is the explosive formation, magical powers, or magic treasures, it is really amazing. I still have to think of a way to deal with the two immortals. Without the two immortals, the Xinyuan Empire will not be able to take out many doctrine artifacts. On my side, those who have doctrine artifacts are all top experts. More than a dozen giants all have doctrine artifacts. With this overwhelming advantage, it is not difficult to deal with tens of millions of practitioners in the galaxy. Seeing the situation inside the Origin God world, Su Feng was greatly shocked. 10 million cultivators, what kind of scene was this? Although the Beichen zone and the Wu-Tan realm also had 10 million cultivators, it was impossible for them to gather together. However, the Xinyuan Empire had already made such an incredible and shocking move. For Su Feng and countless masters, the Xinyuan Empire was not as simple as a giant crocodile. When the consummate ability penetrated the world barrier, he could still see millions of troops and the Star River in the distance, which was fiercely fighting. Sect Master has the 5 poisons real body. I guess that some time ago, my yin and yang power and a lot of immortals' resources washed his body. Now his strength has recovered to the level it was more than 100,000 years ago. He is really powerful. He can use the power of tens of thousands of people in the Star River to display a great magic skill that can restrict hundreds of thousands of practitioners. It's time for me to leave here. He took back the consummate ability. Everything was under his control. He adjusted his breath and was about to inform the Wooling Goblin to prepare to leave the depths of the Earth's core. Buzz. Who would have thought? Suddenly, a familiar vibration came from his body. He released his mind and immediately caught it. When he entered the Yang Meridian, he saw a brand new Yang Meridian forming. This was the 13 Yang Meridian that was in the process of breaking through. He didn't expect that it could be successfully condensed at such a critical time in just a few years. Why was it so unbelievably fast? With a shocked expression, he got the Wooling Goblin to continue controlling the surrounding Earth's core energy. He poured most of his energy into the Yang Meridian and used the 9 Yang 9 transformations. His pure Yang power was madly attacking the 13th Yang Meridian that was forming. Condensing the Yang Meridian was important. However, he was more curious about how the 13th Yang Meridian could be successfully formed in just a few years. When his mind entered the Yang Meridian, he thought that he would have to spend a lot of effort to discover the reason. At this moment, His attention was attracted by the 9-yang meridian in the state of circulation. When the 9-yang meridian formed, it happened to be the first transformation of the 9-yang 9 transformations. The 10th, 11th, 12th, and even the 13th yang meridian were connected. The 9-yang meridian were the source of the entire yang meridian. An unprecedented change took place in the 9 yang veins. First, the mysterious golden lotus stone flower floated in the center of the 9 yang meridian. The origin power it released was even more dazzling. Moreover, it seemed to have reached a state of fusion with the yang meridian. Secondly, the 5 star-like circles of light were mysteriously floating around the golden lotus stone flower. This scene was too similar to the incomparably deep Milky Way. A dazzling planet released starry circles of light. The golden lotus stone flower and the 5 circles of light were similar to a planet in the Milky Way. They both released starry brilliance and floated in the boundless yang meridian world. It gave the Sufang the illusion that there was an additional planet in the yang meridian. Why did the Milky Way disappear? After recovering, he continued to search for the reason and the changes. There were indeed new changes. There used to be Milky Way in the 9 yang meridian. However, it had disappeared. There were also no Milky Way in the 10th to 12th yang meridian. The 12th yang meridian had lost its Milky Way. It had become a primitive state with only pure yang energy. When he first started cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations and formed the first yang meridian, there was only pure yang energy in the yang meridian. Later, because he absorbed too much world essence from the Zhuotian world and mortal emperor world, the Milky Way slowly formed Milky Way in the yang meridian. Now, why did it all disappear? Why were there only 5 Milky Way floating around the world fragment in the 9 yang meridian? Could it be that the Milky Way in the 12 yang meridian worlds had turned into the 5 Milky Way circles? It was unbelievable. It was inexplicable. A mortal cultivator like him could not figure it out at all. Since I can't figure it out, let me see what's so special about the Milky Way circles and the world fragment. Suddenly, he calmed down and placed all his attention on the golden lotus stone flower and the 5 circles of light floating around it. He released pure yang energy and the world aura into the 5 circles of light. He immediately discovered that each of the 5 circles of light had an internal Milky Way space. Furthermore, it had the same aura as the Milky Way in the yang meridian. It was just that the space was different. 5 circles of light represented 5 Milky Way spaces. Next, he discovered that within the 5 circles of light, he could clearly sense the world essence of Mortal Emperor World, Wu Tan World, Beichen Zone, Immortal Primordial World, and Primordial God World. How could he explain it? That's right, I've fused with Mortal Emperor World, Beichen Zone, Wu Tan World, Immortal Primordial World, and Primordial God World. There's also the aura of Zhuotian world in my body. Could it be that I've fused with the 5 minor worlds and then these 5 Milky Way circles were born around the golden lotus stone flower? From another perspective, the 5 Milky Way circles were born because I've fused with the 5 minor worlds. That must be the case. Otherwise, why would there be such a change after I fused with the primordial God world? But what does the disappearance of the Milky Way in the yang meridian have to do with the birth of the 5 Milky Way circles? Could it be that I still have to unravel this secret from the golden lotus stone flower? After pondering over and over again, he finally had some ideas. In the end, he still placed all his attention on the golden lotus stone flower and carefully sensed it. He could clearly see that the origin power released by the golden lotus stone flower was first fused with the 5 Milky Way circles around it. The 5 Milky Way circles also entered a state of fusion with the golden lotus stone flower. Then, the 5 Milky Way circles absorbed the origin power of the world fragment. Under Sufang's control, the origin power could be absorbed from the 5 Milky Way circles. This made him quickly realize that the 5 Milky Way circles seemed to have become a bridge for him to fuse with the golden lotus stone flower. It allowed him to start fusing with the world fragment. Previously, he used heaven's retribution to attack and then waited for the world fragment to absorb the origin power before he could absorb it. But now, with the 5 Milky Way circles, he didn't need to absorb the origin power. The golden lotus stone flower would automatically release the origin power and fuse with the 5 Milky Way circles. In the end, Su Fang didn't need to control the world fragment as he could gradually fuse with it. Forget it if I don't understand. Let's deal with the primordial God world first. Su Fang slowly adjusted his breathing and said helplessly, I originally wanted to reach the 9th tier of the immortal realm. But I didn't expect that because of the birth of the 13th yang meridian, the energy in my body would be in a normal state. I can only fight immortals with the 8th tier of the immortal realm. Luckily, I have the 13th yang meridian. Now, my overall strength has increased again. I estimate that my current strength should be close to the peak of a small world. Only Realm Master Zhuotian, the 6 Lords of Fertility, the Emperor of the Origin God world, and the Lord of 5 Poisons from the mortal world can surpass me by a little. Swished, after a while of probing and forming the 5 Milky Way circles, his aura suddenly disappeared. The Wooling Goblin suddenly turned into a stone belt and took Su Fang away from the core. Its speed was obviously faster than before. Obviously, as Su Fang merged with the primordial God world's world essence, the Wooling Goblin had amazing control over the primordial God world. But it still took them half a month to reach the surface. The Wooling Goblin turned into its human form. Master, where do we go next? Of course, to the primordial God world's world barrier. It's time to confront the primordial God world head-on. Without thinking too much, the two of them broke through the sky. When they reached the bottom of the world barrier, Su Fang also sensed the two immortals' illusory existences. The more illusory they were, the more likely they were. They quietly left the world barrier and arrived at the Milky Way. Su Fang suddenly saw a phalanx of tens of thousands of people in front of him. They had embarrassed smiles on their faces. It was obvious that they were plotting something. He and the Wooling Goblin came to the front of the phalanx of tens of thousands of people without any aura. They activated the primordial God world's world essence and the power of the Holy Emperor Divine Origin Scripture. In this way, the divine aura that Su Fang was releasing toward the tens of thousands of people was like the power of the Xinyuan Empire. Voice of the Heavenly Demon, World Control. An invisible divine aura from the Holy Emperor Divine Origin Scripture spread among the tens of thousands of people. He put his hands together, and a twisting demonic aura burst out of the void. Instantly, the tens of thousands of people were caught off guard and rushed into the depths of their mind. Puff, puff, come. The divine aura of a doctrine artifact suddenly appeared in their minds. Coupled with the voice of the heavenly demon's continuous attacks and the sealing of their yang souls, these people were directly sucked into the doctrine artifact. Who is it? Suddenly, a throne floated over, along with countless experts of the Xinyuan Empire. Chapter 841. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Along with the tiger roars and furious roars, Su Fang was wantonly sucking the 10,000 experts into the mini-universe celestial gourd. He also released his power at the Great Completion Realm. He saw that there were many powerful warriors of the Xinyuan Empire sitting on the thrones. The leader was not the great Emperor Dipper that he was familiar with. It was Lord Nan, one of the 4 lords. Even though Su Fang had no contact with Lord Nan, he had spied on the Xinyuan Empire many times. He was very familiar with the 4 lords of the Xinyuan Empire. You are so powerful. Lord Nan has survived 3 disasters and can ascend to the great world. But I killed the great Emperor Dipper in the past. I can kill you this time. Su Fangda activated the power of the world. Soon, tens of thousands of people were sucked into the doctrine artifact. Suddenly, tens of thousands of people from the Xinyuan Empire came. Lord Nan, one of the four lords, appeared in the galaxy with a handsome face in his 60s. As soon as he saw Su Fang, he was surprised. Su Fang! Su Fang and Wuling Goblin stood side by side and flew into the sky. There were tens of thousands of people. I didn't expect that the powerful Lord Nan would know about me, an ant from the mortal world. Lord Nan grabbed the throne with both hands. You stole from the Renhuang world and killed my third prince and many powerful warriors. Su Fang, even if you turn into ashes, my empire will still know you. TSK. Suddenly, galactic wind blew from both sides of the galaxy. Su Fang looked around and saw tens of thousands of people from both sides surrounding him. The Xinyuan Empire reacted quickly. He could also see that the soldiers in the square formation had prepared the mighty divine cannon. Once it was fired, it would be as powerful as the fairy realm. Its destructive power was astonishing. Perhaps the Xinyuan Empire would even increase the power of the mighty Xinyuan cannon. The South Monarch raised his arm and shouted, Su Fang, you still have a chance to live. Submit to my emperor and hand over the human sovereign world. Then, my empire will help you become an immortal. In less than 500 years, you can ascend to the greater world. That's all? Su Fang sighed, looking dissatisfied. You're still not satisfied with becoming an immortal in 500 years? There are so many people here. Let alone 500 years, even 50,000 years wouldn't be enough for them to become an immortal. If you have such a shortcut, why don't you choose it? Of course I have a choice, Prince Nan. My choice is to suppress all of you. Then, it won't take 500 years. It will only take 100 years for my Su Fang to ascend to the outside world. Ignorant brat. You're right about that. I'm just a commoner in your Xinyuan Empire. However, my heart is higher than the sky. My ambition is formed and the sky is my boundary. You can say that I'm ignorant, but I hope that I can continue to be ignorant because that will allow me to surpass everything. Since you don't want to live, then there's no need to waste words. Open fire and blast this ignorant brat into pieces. Not even his corpse will remain. Nan Wang suddenly pointed at the sky like an angry bull. Buzz, buzz on both sides of the galaxy, among the tens of thousands of people, a large number of mighty divine origin cannons suddenly appeared, controlled by a large number of experts. Wuling Goblin suddenly shielded Su Fang. Master! Seeing Wuling Goblin's action, Su Fang suddenly felt very gratified. Because unknowingly, as the years passed, the 20,000 big goblin that he had suppressed all surrendered to him during this period. Also, those countless experts that he had suppressed allowed him to concentrate on dealing with the primordial god world, conquer the small world, and establish a force in this small world. Let's not wait for everyone to come. Let's kill to our heart's content first. We can catch them off guard and disrupt their deployment. Su Fang issued an order to Wuling Goblin. In a breath, Su Fang and Wuling Goblin's speed reached a speed faster than teleportation. They had reached the speed of shuttling through the door of wonder. Open fire! On the side of the Xinyuan Empire. On both sides of the army, hundreds of people were responsible for one mighty divine origin cannon. Their hand seals condensed a terrifying energy and merged it with a special cannonball. When the cannonball was shot out, it was like a terrifying Dharma treasure. In a blink, dozens of cannonballs were shot toward the galaxy 100 miles away. In a breath's time, a large number of dazzling clouds suddenly appeared in the galaxy. Then, there was a deafening explosion that shook the entire galaxy. At this moment, the earth-shattering explosion shook the Xinyuan Empire, the Renhuang world, and the 100,000 troops hidden in the distance. Even the faraway immortal primordial realm could feel the tremors. Open fire! This time, there were hundreds of cannonballs in the two armies. It seemed that they had made up their minds to blow Su Fang to smithereens. Roar, roar! 3 breaths later. Suddenly, there was a devil-like sound that came from the galaxy around Nan Wang's army. Kill! In the next breath, Su Fang appeared above the three armies. He waved his hand and one big goblin after another attacked. Black Ridge Demon King, Vermilion Emperor, Sky-reaching Venerable Demon King, Nine-headed Demon King, Brute Force Demon King, and Nine-segment Earth Dragon. These 6 peerless great demons unleashed their Tao treasures without holding back. They also unleashed shocking amounts of demonic poison and demonic fire. Each great demon unleashed a terrifying power that could surpass 3 natural disasters. Nan Wang was shocked as he saw the 6 beams of demonic light coming toward the 3 armies. Where did so many big goblins come from? And they are all releasing their Tao artifacts. At this time, the mighty divine origin cannon lost its effect in a short-range battle. This kind of long-range weapon was suitable for large-scale battles and to deal with some normal cultivators. But against peerless experts like Su Fang and the Big Goblin, it would lose its effect. In an instant, the 6 big goblin kings attacked the 3 armies at the same time. No matter how many people there were, the big goblins killed their way through. They didn't care if they were from the Xinyuan Empire or immortals. "Kid, why didn't you wait for us?" At this time, there was only one person in Su Fang's eyes. It was Nan Wang, who had chosen to retreat. He used his speed to get closer. A thought came to his mind. It was the Lord of 5 Poisons. Then, it was the Green Feather King and Li Ziqing. Previously, I was also thinking of waiting for us to meet up before attacking together. But that way, the Xinyuan Empire would also be prepared. They have such an astonishingly mighty Xinyuan cannon. At that time, how many people would we lose? It would be better for me to first catch them off guard and disrupt their formation. Only then can you all hurry over. Su Fang told the old antiques his idea. In the end, the 3 of them had nothing to say. This was the boldness of the strong. As long as one had the ability and strength, one could break the rules. In this world, everyone and everything was affected and shackled by rules. Usually, the one who could break the rules was a genius like Su Fang. Today, the light of the galaxy belonged to him. Since that was the case, the 3 old antiques all thought that it was time for him to release the light. The Xinyuan Empire was in a mess. There were almost 100,000 people. Even though they were only facing 6 big goblins, each big goblin had a peerless doctrine artifact. Their strength had reached the peak of the mortal world. They also had poisonous gas and demonic poison. Since their chi was naturally stronger than humans, any power they released would be destructive. Furthermore, most of these troops were Ascension Transformation Realm cultivators. There was a huge gap between them and Pinnacle Great Demons. If they could use the Divine Origin Cannon, they could stop the Big Goblin from a distance. But at such a close distance, they could only form formations and use their Dharma artifact. Whoosh, 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 a large number of arrows were shot neatly at the Big Goblin. The galaxy was filled with stars. This was the terrifying army of the Xinyuan Empire. Prince Nan's reaction was probably fast. He controlled the situation and ordered the square formation to start a new round of attack. The Divine Origin Army not only had long-range attacks, but also close-range attack. Arrows. This was the obvious choice. Moreover, the arrows were specially made and valuable. They formed a large net of arrows to trap the Big Goblin. The arrows could kill any Ascension Realm Master. A large number of arrows could even hurt a Ascension Realm Master. But to the Big Goblin, who had thick skin and flesh, it was like scratching an itch. Even so, the arrow formation was more or less a hindrance to the Big Goblin. At least, it affected their attack speed. After a few breaths, tens of thousands of Xinyuan Empire cultivators had died tragically at the hands of the 6 Big Goblins. Prince Nan. 2 figures suddenly appeared beside Su Fang, who was activating the power of the world. It was the Chaos Fairy and the Immortal Heavenly Lord. "Sister Bai, you guys wait in the dark. Maybe you can force Jing Suifeng and that Celestial Master Ling Xian out. Once they come out, only you guys can stop them directly. But I don't think they will show up at this time. After all, not even 1/10 of the 10 million cultivators have been lost. Before dealing with Prince Nan, Su Fang gathered the immortal turtle and Bai Ling in the dark and asked them to hide in the dark. The main reason was to guard against the immortals. Su Fang's speed reached the extreme again. What was more fatal was that his speed was silent. Order every general to maintain the camp. There are already more than a dozen troops coming to help. In the turmoil, it was either arrows flying or magic treasures exploding out of control. The 10,000 seats suddenly disappeared. The dignified Prince Nan lost his usual calmness and began to retreat under the protection of a group of masters. Drip, drip. Suddenly it rained. Maybe it was the rain, because Prince Nan and the thousands of masters protecting him suddenly heard some raindrops falling on their bodies. Some people found that it wasn't raindrops, but drops of blood. At first, they didn't care, thinking that it was a fallen master because a large amount of blood mist was floating around. But in less than 3 breaths, there were more drops of blood, and there were sizzling sounds coming from their bodies. Their puppets, robes, and even their physical defenses were being corroded by the drops of blood. Prince Nan also felt a burning pain on his shoulders, arms, and neck. When he saw that the blood was corroding his skin and affecting the condensation of his true qi, he immediately ordered, "There's poison." There should be a master of the 5 poison divine sect secretly releasing poison. Retreat. Thousands of people hurriedly flew to the primordial god world. The formation behind them was still dealing with the big goblin. No matter how far these 1,000 experts flew, there would always be cultivators left behind in the Milky Way, struggling and groaning in pain. It turned out that in a short period of time, their heads would fall off and their skin would rot away. They looked like people who had been skinned alive. More masters couldn't hold on. They either vomited blood or watched as their heads and skin peeled off, revealing flesh and blood. In the end, there were only 100 people following Prince Nan, but they were also gradually slowing down. Prince Nan scratched his head in horror. What kind of poison is this? Isn't it the 5 poison divine sect's 5 poisons? Jie, you're all my father's slaves. Don't even think about escaping. Suddenly, a blood-robed youth with an evil aura and a ruthless gaze appeared above them. He was the blood ghost True Devil. After saying that, he spat out a true devil blood plate, which swept towards the heavily injured experts behind him. Those poison giants were all sucked into the true devil blood plate. Run, run. This is the legendary blood ghost of the devil path. At this moment, Prince Nan had completely lost his bearing as a prince. He took the remaining 100 experts and fled for his life. But at this moment, an aurora had already silently swept towards him along with the trembling starry sky. Chapter 842. Prince Nan still could not find the aurora. He had to run for his life. A mere blood-wraith true demon was enough to scare him away. He had no other choice. Not even Prince Shui could recover from the blood-wraith true demon's blood poison after losing his left arm. Su Fang had obtained many poisonous insects from the Xianjia Gate. He had given them all to the blood-wraith true demon. That was why its blood poison had reached the level of the immortal realm and was unique. It was a blood monster and a poison monster. Prince Nan's scalp had fallen off, revealing his bloody head. His skin was peeling off, rotting, and festering. It was a disgusting sight. More importantly, the blood poison would corrode his meridians and genuine qi once it entered his body. He could not control his genuine qi to stop the poison. Prince Nan had to run for his life. Only when he returned to the primordial god universe could someone cure him. Swish, poof, behind him, the blood-wraith true demon was controlling the plate of blood to devour and suppress the powerful warriors that were controlled by the poison. Only a small portion of the thousands survived. At this moment, Prince Nan had just flown far away under the protection of a group of experts. However, the aurora sword shadow suddenly pierced into his heart. My lord! Oh no, my lord is wounded. Inform the Emperor to protect my lord or we will all die. Dozens of powerful warriors surrounded Prince Nan, regardless of the blood poison. The starry daylight sword had pierced into Prince Nan's heart and went through his body. It was such a peerless treasure. One stab was enough to end Prince Nan's life. I can't believe that I, Prince Nan, am about to ascend to the greater world. Why is the heavens so blind? I, Prince Nan, have fought for my entire life. How many families, empires, and forces have I slaughtered? This king was so close to ascending to the greater worlds with the immortal realm. Why did I end up like this? I can't accept this. Prince Nan, who was on the verge of death, mumbled to himself as he lay in the river of stars under the protection of several powerful warriors. The powerful warriors next to him were in despair as well. Prince Nan's flesh was corroded by the blood poison. His head and cheekbones were exposed. It was disgusting. No matter how loyal they were to him, none of them wanted to touch him. You won't be able to escape either. Seal. Su Fang shuttled through the stars in the sky and immediately intercepted the 100 or so experts with the blood wraith and true demon in the center. He wantonly controlled the surrounding galaxies and said domineeringly, "Those who obey me will live, and those who oppose me will die. Do you want to follow King Nan and die, or do you want to live and not be tortured by the poison? It's your choice." Plop. Over 100 people immediately knelt down helplessly and gave up resisting. At this moment, they were like mortals who were beyond cure. They began to struggle and moan in pain. The true demon blood plate immediately sucked them away, and the blood wraith true demon followed Su Fang's orders and ran to work with the 6 big goblin to deal with even more Xinyuan Empire experts. Su Fang grabbed the dying King Nan, but it was too late. King Nan's brain had been completely corroded by the blood poison. All that was left was a bloody skull. His eyeballs were gone, and his divine aperture and young infant were gone as well. He grabbed the corpse and let it float to the side. Then he used a supreme seal to pour it into the true demon blood plate and the miniature universe immortal pot. About half an incense stick's worth of time later, the experts that had been suppressed were released. Since you've submitted to me and been suppressed by me, you no longer have anything to do with the Xinyuan Empire. You're now Su Fang's subordinates. This is an aphrodisiac pill that contains extraordinary power. Once you take it, immediately go to the human emperor world and recover your strength as quickly as possible. Then we'll take down the origin god world together. If you don't behave, I won't be polite and will wipe out your young infant. Yes, master. More than 10,000 experts helplessly accepted the aphrodisiac pill and turned to fly back to the battlefield. Then Su Fang sent the true demon blood plate toward the blood wraith true demon. With the true demon blood plate, the blood wraith's power was even more terrifying, and he could use it to suppress countless experts. When he turned around, he didn't expect to see so many experts glaring at him from the origin god world. There were at least 200,000 of them. The tycoons of the royal family from the Xinyuan Empire led their experts over. A few 100,000 people were just a drop in the ocean for the Xinyuan Empire, which had tens of millions of soldiers. Save King Nan! The tycoons of the royal family roared furiously. Tut, tut, tut. The entire Star River began to surge towards Su Fang like ferocious beasts. It was too terrifying. You still want to save your King Nan? Su Fang was like an ant facing an army of 10,000 galloping horses. He waved his hand and said, "This is King Nan, one of the 4 kings of the Xinyuan Empire. You can't save him. I killed the great Emperor Dipper in the past. Today, King Nan also died at my hand. Now the other kings and your entire royal family will die at my hand. This is your fate." Damn it. Many tycoons of the royal family were enraged when they saw King Nan's body. They were about to eat Su Fang and the Star River. Alright, since the Xinyuan Empire is so powerful, I won't hold back. I'll take as many of you as you come today. Small universe divine pot. So many overlords and an army were rushing over like locusts. Su Fang actually went to meet them head-on by himself. Hundreds of thousands of Xinyuan Empire's overlords had never expected this. All of a sudden, Su Fang spat out a beam of immortal light above the hundreds of thousands of experts, as if he was swallowing clouds. A Tipun-like Taoist treasure suddenly shot out a shocking divine power above the hundreds of thousands of experts. It turned into a shocking immortal light that shot out from the mouth of the teapot and formed a waterfall. It poured down from the high altitude of the galaxy, forming an indescribable silver waterfall. The small universe divine pot isn't just a defensive Tao artifact. It contains a lot of deity qi stored in a large world. Once it's spat out, it can release a peerless deity light attack from a large world. Although it can only release deity qi, can mortals resist such power? Su Fang put his hands behind his back. The Tao artifact's origin spirit also said, Master, I can't replenish my energy in a small world if I lose a lot of deity qi like this. I can only go to the great celestial world. The most important thing right now is to deal with the origin God world. I'm going to ascend to the great celestial world soon anyway. When I get there, this problem will be solved. Understood. The small universe divine pot 66 continued to spit out more deity qi. There seemed to be an invisible giant in the galaxy above the hundreds of thousands of overlords. It was holding a huge Tao artifact teapot and pouring deity qi on their heads. The shockwaves formed by the deity qi made the hundreds of thousands of Xinyuan Empire's overlords feel like ants on a hot pan. Xian Wang's Six Paths Pagoda, a peerless natal Dharma treasure, supported by the power of the world. In the blink of an eye, Su Fang arrived above a large number of Xinyuan Empire's cultivators, and a six-layered Xian Guang Dharma treasure came out of his body. Su Fang disappeared. Like a balloon, he was blown up by the six-layered mystic light. The six-layered golden and silver pagoda expanded to 10,000 feet in size. The six-layered pagoda doors opened at the same time. Taking advantage of the fact that the mini heaven and earth immortal pot had severely injured the army of the Xinyuan Empire, the six-layered pagoda doors released a terrifying suction force, swallowing the powerful cultivators one by one. This was the supreme power of a top Dharma treasure and a natal Dharma treasure. Kill, kill. Release the Dharma treasure formation and destroy the pagoda. The overlords of the royal family were in a mess. They couldn't deal with the small universe divine pot, so they could only disperse the army and let the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda absorb the cultivators in the sky. The overlords of the royal family gathered and activated their royal-grade Dharma treasures. Thousands of them floated out and formed a Dharma treasure formation. The Dharma treasure formation shook and surged in the galaxy. Whoosh at this moment. Su Fang was nowhere to be seen, but there was a sword shadow among the overlords of the royal family. It attacked in a strange way and cut off the heads of the overlords of the royal family. It affected a large number of Dharma treasures. At the same time, the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda also changed its position to avoid the thousands of Dharma treasures. I have a Dharma artifact and the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda and the Starry Daylight Sword. I'm not afraid of immortals. Let me show you what a natal Dharma treasure is and what a cultivator of the world is. Where was he? It turned out that Su Fang, who had completely released his natal Dharma treasure, had perfectly merged with the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. He also activated the more than 20,000 big goblin inside and released Dharma power to persist in the Dharma treasure. Su Fang also activated the ethereal enlightenment and the power of the world to strengthen himself, which was equivalent to strengthening the peerless Dharma treasure, the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. Boom! Boom! the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda became 10,000 feet tall again. With the speed of shuttling through the door, the thousands of magic treasures that were rushing over suddenly swept past the large number of panicked cultivators of the Xinyuan Empire. The six-story door also had a terrifying suction force that sucked in those cultivators, along with the starlight as well as those cultivators. This state is too good. I have the power of the world and my energy is never depleted. I also have the support of more than 20,000 big goblin. No realm lord is more powerful than me. Su Fang was truly in a small world. In front of hundreds of thousands of cultivators, as well as in the surroundings and in the distance, he had fully displayed his abilities. A Tao artifact, a natal Dharma treasure, the power of a realm lord, a supreme divine power, a perfected physical body, a supreme yang soul. When all of these were combined, Su Fang believed that he had the ability to fight with realm lords like the six lords of fertility head-on. He was also very confident that he could defeat those who were truly invincible in small world. Cultivators, listen to me. Since you're in my hands, if you don't behave, I'll kill you now and let you be obedient and bear my sealing power. On the 6th floor of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, there were already more than 60,000 overlords of the Xinyuan Empire that had been suppressed. With so many people, Su Fang did not hold back. He used the heavenly demon's voice and the peerless power of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda to extract tens of thousands of overlords' wills and send the sealing power into their minds. Just like what the Blood Wraith True Demon had said, many people would become Su Fang's slaves. At this moment in the Milky Way where the battle was about to end, there were no mortal Emperor world experts, and the 5 poisons poison gas was also scattered into the Milky Way. Of the hundreds of thousands of immortal primordial domain experts, 1/3 had been severely poisoned. The rest were more or less poisoned. I still want to kill Su Fang. The cultivators from the immortal primordial domain had suffered heavy losses. The Xinyuan Empire could not send too many people either. The great Emperor Dipper led his experts to guard against any changes in the surroundings. The heretical crown prince, Prince Shui, who used to be a disciple of the Celestial Bestowment sect, looked at the primordial god world. He saw the shocking Tao treasure, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, and the turbulent Milky Way. I didn't expect Su Fang to be able to use a Tao treasure to such an extent. It's unbelievable. His natal treasure is a king-grade Dharma treasure that's close to the peak of a small world. So you're actually this strong. Fortunately, I didn't rashly attack Su Fang. There's still plenty of time in the future. I don't want to fight to the death with you now and waste all my energy on this insignificant small world. Prince Shui was shocked. This was probably the first time he had seen Su Fang, who had stirred up the Milky Way. Chapter 843. The Lord of 5 Poisons has fled in defeat. Don't chase him. The great Emperor Dipper was a little hysterical. He controlled his supreme sovereign aura and released his voice to the experts from the Xinyuan Empire and the immortal primordial domain. Look, please move. The leader of the Doichi, Master Limitless, led a large number of experts under his command to gather the cultivators who had been tortured by the 5 poisons. Not many of them had died. The Lord of 5 Poisons had attacked them midway with poison. Even though they had been poisoned, these cultivators would not die in a short time. Under the command of Master Limitless and the other experts, they formed a formation. Master Limitless led the elders under his command and the few experts he had recruited to greet the great Emperor Dipper politely. My lord, I will bring everyone back to rest immediately. No. After being attacked midway, the experts recruited from the immortal primordial domain were severely traumatized. Master Limitless wanted to bring the Doichi and these cultivators back to the primordial god world to rest. However, he did not expect the Xinyuan Empire to be so resolute. He pointed at the waterfall of immortal spiritual energy in front of them and said, "Pass down the order immediately. Assemble the formation. We will move out in 2 hours to suppress Su Fang." Yes. Master Limitless lowered his head and cupped his fists. Not long after, he left with the other experts and arrived at the formation of the Doichi expert. A few Doichi elders surrounded Master Limitless. "Leader, the great Emperor Dipper is really a vampire. He is using us as cannon fodder. We are not pigs or dogs. The dojo was destroyed by Su Fang. We cannot return to the immortal primordial domain. The Xinyuan Empire must have seen this and attacked our weakness. If we do not listen to the orders of the Xinyuan Empire, we will have no place in the Star River. Leader, what should we do? What should we do? You know better than me what the Xinyuan Empire is thinking. Do you still need to ask? They will not let us go. Do we have a choice? Pass down the order immediately. Everyone is to prepare to join the battle. However, secretly tell everyone to preserve their strength. Don't risk your lives for the Xinyuan Empire." The experts around him knew what the great Emperor Dipper was thinking. So what? Fortunately, Limitless was the leader. He suppressed the atmosphere and calmed everyone down. Then, he secretly conveyed his true thoughts to the expert. Not long after, the Xinyuan Empire issued an order and led hundreds of thousands of troops towards the Star River battlefield in front of the Origin God World. Renhuang World. At this moment, in the primordial God World, one could still see the star-like Renhuang realm slowly moving through the star field. The Lord of Five Poisons, the Green Feather King, Li Ziqing, Li Haojie, and other powerful cultivators were following the Big Goblin to migrate the human sovereign world to the primordial God World. Soon, the 100,000-strong army arrived in time and finally met up at the Star River. Not only that, but the tens of thousands of cultivators who had been suppressed by Su Fang in the Star River battlefield were also uneasy and fearful. Su Zhen had transformed the Star River to welcome them into the Renhuang world. At this moment, a large number of experts were floating in the Renhuang world. The Lord of Five Poisons suddenly turned around and swept his gaze across a large number of experts who had reached the peak of the flying celestial realm. Everyone, Su Fang dared to attack the primordial God world alone. How can we retreat? Since everyone is gathered here, I believe that all of this has been arranged by the heavens. We can't let Su Fang fight alone. Today we must have a decisive battle with the primordial God world. The Green Feather King also released a strange smoke-like demonic aura and shouted in the air, "Today we'll go all out and fight for a future." Out. In fact, everyone could see from Su Fang's every move that he was determined to fight the Xinyuan Empire. When people are often forced into a desperate situation, they will always erupt with unimaginable potential. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered. Now, it was either the Renhuang world conquering the Xinyuan Empire or the Xinyuan Empire flattening the Renhuang world and killing everyone. Everyone here had long been connected to the Renhuang world and would advance and retreat together with Su Fang. Since that was the case, they might as well go all out like Su Fang. Li Haojie released a shocking amount of demonic aura in the air. It should not be his own true qi, but from the Origin Suppression Demon Transformation Heavenly Book. This demonic aura was very special and strengthened the bodies of thousands of big goblin. Their migration to the Renhuang world began to accelerate. The Renhuang world carried tens of thousands of experts, as well as hundreds of thousands of experts who were hibernating in the Renhuang world. They were quickly approaching the primordial God world. Inside the Renhuang world, in addition to the hundreds of thousands of experts who were on standby and the tens of thousands of experts who belonged to the Xinyuan Empire, who had just arrived and were recuperating, there was another group of people. The leader was Su Fang's father, Su Yaotian. Behind him were family Su's former clansmen, all of whom were very familiar faces. There were also many experts that Su Fang had suppressed before, such as Feng Xingzhen, Mo Fengjun, Supreme Venerable Demon King, Luan Mo, and others. Even Venerable Gu had brought Qi Yuan Ao and some other experts from the depths of the Renhuang world. Su Yaotian looked at everyone present. He could clearly see the same nervousness in everyone's eyes and the same breathing. Even though most of the people here were experts who had been suppressed by Su Fang and had their yang souls shackled, there was no indifference towards the Renhuang world in their eyes. Instead, they felt the same way. Su Yaotian said to everyone with relief, "Our responsibility is to guard the world's barrier. Once the battle starts in the Milky Way, we have to stop the Xinyuan Empire's soldiers from killing their way in. With the Renhuang world, my son Su Fang is invincible. We can't participate in the battle and can only do our best. The Renhuang world doesn't rely on my son alone, it relies on everyone. As long as we work together, we will definitely be able to cross the primordial God world. Let's work together to overcome this crisis." In such a situation, everyone's hearts were indeed united. They raised their arms and shouted, gazing at the Milky Way with worry like Su Yaotian. The primordial God world. In the two Milky Way battlefields, the 6 big goblin were fighting against an army of hundreds of thousands. In the Milky Way that was very close to the primordial God world, Su Fang was using 3 artifacts to fight against hundreds of thousands of experts. Su Fang, who had fused with his natal artifact, was using this ability to suppress countless people. Previously, he had suppressed more than 60,000 experts. Now, there were nearly 100,000 trapped in the 6 Paths Pagoda. Great Emperor Dipper. A large number of experts from the Xinyuan Empire were still in formation to deal with the immortal essence waterfall of the mini-universe Immortal Pot and Su Fang, who was in his natal artifact state. No matter how strong a single person was, he was still insignificant when faced with the cooperation of countless people. All of a sudden, the 10,000 Zhang Profound Illusion 6 Paths Pagoda disappeared, and so did the Dao treasure. Su Fang turned into a star trail, and before the army from the other side of the galaxy could arrive, he was the first to retreat. The 6 big goblins also retreated from the other Milky Way. It was estimated that the 6 big goblins had joined forces and slaughtered no less than 200,000 experts from the Xinyuan Empire. Not a single one was left alive for Su Fang. It was their fault for being so bloodthirsty. Until they met with Su Fang's Milky Way, the murderous intent in their eyes was still boiling. The 6 big goblins were like 6 most loyal guards, protecting Su Fang in the Milky Way. He released the Xian Guang of the Renhuang world and condensed a throne. After he sat on it, he and the 6 big goblins faced the army of the Xinyuan Empire alone. But the Renhuang world came from behind him across the Milky Way. He was not alone. Su Fang was a perfection stage expert who cultivated countless divine abilities and controlled the power of the world. He could sense the Renhuang world of the Milky Way behind him. The breath of countless cultivators and the power of faith were surging towards him. He could also clearly sense the Lord of 5 Poisons, Green Feather Monarch, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and other experts. He could even sense the family Su clansmen, Venerable Gu, Lan Haiqing, and Xiao Mei in the Milky Way world. It was as if at this moment there was an ethereal feeling like the stars had arrived at the end of heaven and earth, fusing with the world. The Renhuang world quickly arrived at Su Fang's side under the migration of thousands of big goblins. A large number of experts flew out from the Renhuang world, led by Green Feather Monarch and the Lord of 5 Poisons. Li Haojie was at the Milky Way side, ordering the thousands of big goblins. "You big goblins, stay here and protect the Renhuang world. Everyone is here." Su Fang was sitting on the throne. When he turned around, he saw familiar faces as well as close to 500,000 experts. The Lord of 5 Poisons, Green Feather Monarch, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, Qin Yuanhou, and dozens of others had gathered with Su Fang in the Milky Way ahead of the hundreds of thousands of experts. Green Feather Monarch laughed. "Kid, are you alright? You have a good physique, how could you be alright?" Li Ziqing happily patted Su Fang's shoulder. "I'm fine now, but I don't know what will happen in the future." The Lord of Five Poisons looked at the primordial god world solemnly. At this moment, everyone looked over with him, but no one's gaze was as empty as the Lord of Five Poisons. This scene is so familiar. Over 100,000 years ago, I used this method several times to look down on the primordial god world from the Milky Way. I hope this is the last time. We can't fail again, and we can't start over. Sect Master, this should be the last time. This is our last chance. Success or failure will be determined by this. If we don't take down the primordial god world, we won't turn back. The Sect Master's words sounded like an emotional sigh, but it was actually a battle cry burning in his heart. Su Fang immediately looked at the primordial god world and nodded slightly. He controlled his throne and slowly crossed the Milky Way with the other big goblins. Behind them were hundreds of thousands of cultivators. They're finally here. The Lord of Five Poisons, Su Fang, is just a bunch of chickens and dogs. They can't even be brought to the stage. The primordial god world above the world barrier, over 10,000 thrones were gathered. At the very center, there were only 3 kings of the 4 directions. They floated beside the primordial god emperor. The great Emperor Dipper coldly swept his gaze across the Milky Way. The South Emperor must avenge the South Emperor. It's just a few 100,000 people, but the primordial god world has tens of millions of cultivators. We must skin them one by one. The primordial god emperor was like the overlord of the Milky Way. He exuded an astonishing emperor's aura. Tens of thousands of thrones were gathered around the world barrier. Send orders to all the dukes and generals. Count the troops and arrange the troop. Gather around the world barrier. We must crush this force with absolute strength in a short time. 1 hour later, the sound of a bugle horn resounded through the Milky Way from the depths of the Xinyuan Empire. Tut tut tut, waves of aura surged through the Milky Way, as if they were stepping on the Milky Way. It turned out that countless cultivators and armies were flying out of the primordial god world's world barrier. They were majestic and very purposefully gathered in different Milky Ways. There were too many of them. They were so densely packed that they covered the sky and almost completely covered the primordial god world. The primordial god world has tens of millions of people. Before, when I joined forces with the Big Goblin, we killed more than 300,000 experts. That's just a drop in the ocean for the primordial god world. With the power of a perfected saint, Su Fang's eye power could see the primordial god world's gathering troop. He looked at the powerhouses around him. They have too many experts. Some of them are the leaders of cultivation forces, as well as many hermits. There are also the big shots of the royal family. There are at least 100,000 existences who have 3 calamities. That's countless times more than us. That's because they haven't encountered a true peerless big goblin yet. King Greenfeather was extremely disdainful. He was right. How could there be a second big goblin of the rocks in the countless minor worlds? The enemy is strong and we're weak. There's a huge difference in strength. Any schemes are useless in the face of this absolute difference in strength. We can only use courage and strength to kill our way to victory. Looking around, Su Fang said, "Let's show them who's boss first. Everyone, unleash the spell formation. Wei Wei, release your magical power and true energy into the Starry River. After that, I'll unleash my control over the world and unleash my ultimate divine ability, Starry River Control." Chapter 844. After Su Fang finished speaking, the 5 Poison Sect Master, Green Feather Monarch, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and Li Haojie continued to advance with Su Fang towards the countless armies and cultivators in front of the primordial god world. The magnates began to form hand seals and condense their Dharma power and true Qi into an array formation. There was almost no galaxy. Su Fang began to absorb all the magic power in the formation. It was the power of familiar cultivators, as well as the power of hundreds of thousands of peerless experts. World divine might, ethereal true dispelling illusory and true dispelling illusions, star river divine image. A single person's power was limited. No matter how extraordinary Su Fang's abilities were, there was no way he could deal with 1 million or 10 million cultivators. But what if someone could gather the power of countless people and unleash a peerless power? And yet, Su Fang had done just that. He had used his divine abilities to absorb the power of hundreds of thousands of cultivators and then unleash it. The entire river of stars was filled with an ethereal aura that seemed to have been fused with him. In this state of fusion, any aura, floating particles, and substances invisible to the naked eye in this galaxy could be sensed by him. He could even see that the power of the great perfection had reached an infinite height under the support of hundreds of thousands of people. Fire! 50 miles the two sides were only a bit apart in this star river. Millions of soldiers were gathered in front of the primordial god world. They were led by various kings and vassals. Once Su Fang led his subordinates into the 50-mile star field, the primordial god world's army began to gather. Mighty primordial god cannons, tens of thousands of them, formed a neat array of cannons. There were about 1,000 cannons in each row. Suddenly, the energy mystic light condensed and every cannon shook backward almost at the same time. Streaks of fiery light rushed into the star system and illuminated the cold and desolate star system. They're getting closer. This was probably the first time that the countless cultivators on Su Fang's side had seen over 1,000 cannon fire head-on. It was as if over 1,000 magical treasures were flying through the galaxy and shooting towards them. Everyone was suppressing their killing intent. Su Fang clasped his hands together and maintained his posture. He watched as the cannons came closer and closer. When they were less than 10 miles away, he suddenly grabbed a star mark in the direction of the cannons. There seemed to be some dark luster that suddenly and quickly appeared in front of the cannon fire. Boom, boom, boom. It was unknown what kind of power these lights had, but they caused the cannonballs to explode, forming a huge mushroom cloud in the starry river high up in the sky. The black mass was like a storm that lost its center of gravity and rained down on the Xinyuan Empire's square formations. Everyone, be careful! Su Fang seemed to be shackled by an invisible force in the air. He couldn't form hand seals or even breathe as he wanted. The cannonballs that had torn the starry river apart started to explode in a large area. But this time, only most of them exploded. The rest continued to fall, and within a breath, they had already reached the top of countless overlords. Fortunately, Su Fang made a hand seal in time at this time, forming a starry barrier in front of him to block a large number of explosions. But the explosions caused hundreds of thousands of overlords to be unable to move an inch. The Xinyuan Empire didn't have it easy either. A large number of meteors fell. Even if the camps formed a defensive barrier, it was difficult to stop the meteors from falling from the sky. They were also like cannonballs, shattering the barrier and setting off waves after waves of tremors. The starry river is mine. Su Fang clasped his hands together again. This time, he shouted, and the overlords around him flew out, followed by hundreds of thousands of overlords behind him. The overlords formed a staircase formation and suddenly sped up, rushing towards the primordial god world. So, a large number of meteors appeared in the sky above the starry river formed by the meteors, but this time, they were all black stone swords that were a foot long. They almost formed a storm of stone swords, descending towards the Xinyuan Empire's camp. As for the cannons, Many of the overlords didn't have time to react after being attacked by the meteors. Even if they did, they could only self-destruct when they saw the stone swords. They couldn't activate the cannons. The Lord of Five Poisons, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, Grand Elder He Zun, Grand Elder Hong Lian, Marquis Qin Yuanhou, Sacred Monarch Guangzhou, Exalted Cultivator Yuezhen, and the other overlords each led tens of thousands of overlords and rushed towards the Xinyuan Empire's camp while the stone swords were attacking. Su Fang led the 6 big goblin to the mighty divine origin cannons first. The Crimson Emperor turned into his original form and suddenly appeared in the starry river, like an evil monster burning with demon chi. He opened his mouth and spat out. Swish! Swish! The wrath of the demon god was like a lizard pouncing on its prey, like a bloody tongue, striking the mighty divine origin cannons with the power of thunder. Boom! Boom! As expected of the ancient pig horse king, his Tao artifact shattered the mighty divine origin cannons one by one, or else they would have been smashed in the air. Destroy the cannons first. But the royal family of the Xinyuan Empire also noticed the actions of Su Fang and the big goblin. Suddenly, arrows burst out from the camp around them. The arrows turned into a fierce attack that spanned tens of thousands of meters in the starry river.